Chloe didn't have to wait long at the base of her dorm before she saw Sophia walking toward her. Her hair was still damp, clearly fresh from shower. She picked up her pace when she saw Chloe. Chloe. Sophia. Chloe's voice was flat, her mood low. Sophia noticed, but didn't offer any empty reassurances. She just said, "Let's go to the Galaxy Gaming Lounge." As far as Sophia was concerned, if Leo was planning something, Spike would know about it. All they had to do was ask. But when they got to the gaming lounge, they were told Spike wasn't there. He and his crew had left that afternoon and hadn't been back since. "Are Ing and Gabby gone too?" Sophia asked, puzzled. The guy at the counter nodded, which only made it stranger. Had they all just vanished? The more mysterious it was, the more anxious Chloe became. It was one thing to know what was happening, but this feeling of knowing something was going on while everyone was hiding it from her was the worst. Sophia, however, kept her composure. She thought back to Leo asking her for a camcorder a few days ago. "Chloe, maybe you should go back and get some sleep?" But sleep was the last thing on Chloe's mind. She shook her head, so hard it was a blur. "Sophia, what do you think Leo is? What if he's in some kind of trouble?" Her voice was thick with worry. Fortunately, Sophia was there to steady her. "You know what they say? The bad ones live forever." Chloe blinked, processing that for a moment before nodding slowly. "That's true. Well, we're here now. Waiting around won't do any good. Want to play a game?" Sophia said, and without waiting for a reply, she found an open station and logged on. As soon as she sat down, an employee rushed over with 2 cups of hot tea. The owner had given strict orders. These girls were VIPs. If they wanted to smash the place up, the staff was to buy them hammers and help them swing, just to make sure they didn't hurt their hands. Chloe figured she was right. It wasn't like she could sleep anyway. Waiting would only make her more frantic. Might as well play a game. She booted up a computer next to Sophia. While it was starting, she suddenly asked, "Sophia, you never used to play games?" Sophia stared at her with wide eyes. That was before. Games are actually really fun. Chloe's computer screen flickered to life. As she moved the mouse, another question popped into her head. "Sophia, was the first time you ever played a game with Leo?" No. Sophia's fingers, which had been tapping rhythmically on the keyboard, paused for a fraction of a second. "You can play Tetris on a cell phone with another person?" She deflected. That wasn't what Chloe meant to ask, but after a moment's thought, she let out a long breath and decided to drop it. She was only making things harder on herself. "What are you playing?" "Metal Slug." "What's that?" "A fun game." After playing for a bit, Sophia made an excuse to go to the bathroom. Seizing the opportunity, she called Laura in. "Laura, what exactly is going on with Leo today?" Laura only knew bits and pieces herself, but she knew more than Sophia. And since she'd essentially been fired, she didn't mind bad-mouthing Leo a little. What else would he be doing? Running another one of his cons. "Sophia, he's not a good guy. You should stay away from him." "Forget I said anything. You won't listen anyway." Sophia had dealt with Laura before. She didn't remember her being this talkative. Today felt different. "Laura, can you tell me the specifics?" Sophia trailed off, then after a second of silence, finished her thought. "I'm worried." Laura heard the genuine concern in her voice and softened her tone. "I don't know all the details, but I can tell you one thing for sure. He won't be the one getting screwed over." Faye parked Chloe's Land Rover in the hotel parking lot. She got out and walked briskly toward the entrance. Not far away, several pairs of eyes watched her. "Sir." Ethan John's expression was a mask, impossible to read. He lifted his teacup and took a slow sip. "Notify HR. Reassign Faye. Find some project for her to run. Make her a department head." The man next to him took a moment to process the order. Understood. He glanced at Faye's retreating back and sighed internally. What a shame. To go from the chairman's executive assistant to a department head, and not even at corporate headquarters. The fall would be immense. Ethan was angry, yes, but deep down, he also felt a wave of reassurance. Faye knew it was dangerous, yet she chose to go herself rather than let Chloe risk it. Employees like that were rare. Still, insubordination was insubordination, no matter how good the intentions. "Give her a raise." The subordinate made note. "Sir, this deviates from our plan. What are our next steps?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Is Chloe still at the gaming lounge?" "Yes." "Then show her the photo we just received. Make sure she comes here. Now." The man hesitated. "Sir, are you sure we should?" Ethan didn't waste words. "Do you want to be reassigned to?" "My apologies, sir. I'll arrange it immediately." The man scurried off to make the call. When he returned, Ethan's anger had subsided. He sighed, speaking as much to himself as to his subordinate. Leo's methods are still too raw. A single blow like this won't be enough to take them down for good. I don't want Chloe to be at risk either, But after this, we won't get a better opportunity. This experience should help her mature. At the very least, she'll understand that the world is full of bad people. And maybe she won't be so resistant to going abroad. She's my only daughter. How could I ever let her get truly hurt? He sounded like he was explaining himself, but also trying to convince himself. He looked at the brilliant lights of the hotel in the distance, then back at the photo on the table of Leo, passed out in the arms of a beautiful woman. He let out a final, heavy sigh. Leo, if only you loved Chloe and no one else. If that were the case, not only would I not stand in your way, I might even hand you the Jiang Corporation. He hadn't known Leo for long, but Ethan genuinely admired the young man's brilliance. A shame. Some things were just knots that couldn't be untied. As a father, Ethan could never accept Leo's desire to have it all. And since he couldn't change Leo's mind, he had to get Chloe away. Sir, Faye has gone inside. Mr. Xin just messaged, asking what to do. Without turning his head, Ethan said, tell him to keep Dylan Zhao occupied. He can ignore Faye. Chloe will be there soon enough. If Leo could have heard Ethan, he would have been shocked. Mr. Xin was reporting to him. Ethan must have had some serious leverage on the man. Chloe was trying to focus on the game, occasionally exchanging a few words with Sophia. As two attractive girls in a gaming lounge, they were magnets for attention. A few guys had already tried to approach them, only to be intercepted by the security guards. Just as a guard shooed one guy away, a few more men approached. Unlike the college kids, these men were in sharp suits, their faces cold and their steps quick. Their target was clear. They were heading straight for Chloe's seat. The scene drew stares from everyone in the lounge, who began whispering and speculating about who these men were. The security guard stepped up to do his job. What do you guys want? They ignored him, trying to walk around. He wasn't having it and blocked their path. I said, what are you trying to do? It's okay. Chloe's voice cut through the tension. Let them come over. The guard stepped aside. Miss. At that one word, the entire gaming lounge fell silent. Even a frantic clicking of keyboards stopped. What is it? Chloe knew her father had people watching her. They usually kept their distance, a silent agreement of feigned ignorance. For them to approach her now meant something was wrong. Please take a look at this. The man in the lead held out a photograph. The second Chloe's eyes fell on it, her breathing hitched. Where is he? Sophia heard her and turned to look. Her brow furrowed instantly, but she remained silent. Something about the Leo in the photo felt wrong. He was in the arms of a glamorous woman, whose clothes were even torn, but still, it was just wrong. At the city hotel. That was all Chloe needed to hear. She shot up from her chair, ready to leave. Sophia, after a moment's thought, got up to follow. She refused to believe Leo would do something like this. It was late when Chloe and Sophia arrived at the city hotel. The suited bodyguards hadn't followed them upstairs. Chloe didn't think much of it as she pushed open the door to the private suite. The first person she saw was Faye. Faye, where's Leo? Faye gave Chloe a complicated look before answering. You'll have to ask Dylan Zhao about that. She had been completely bewildered when she'd arrived. Even more so when she received a message from Ethan, telling her to stop acting on her own and to let Dylan Zhao know that Chloe was on her way. She hadn't believed it, but here Chloe was. You must be Chloe, a voice drawled. A smirking Dylan Zhao walked over. My man Leo talks about you all the time. His eyes roamed over her, filled with a predatory hunger that made her skin crawl. She fought back her discomfort, her brow furrowed. Where's Leo? Leo? He had a little too much to drink. Went to lie down, Dylan said with a chuckle. Chloe didn't believe a word of it. She insisted on seeing him. Sophia stood right behind her, silent, her eyes darting to Dylan. Her intuition screamed that this guy was bad news. Just then, Dylan approached with a glass of wine. I'm Leo's big brother, so by extension, you should call me that too. First time meeting, how about a drink? We drink, we're acquainted. Then I'll take you to find Leo. Chloe glanced at the glass, then at Faye. She probably figured that with Faye here, nothing could go wrong. She took the glass and downed it in one gulp. There, can I see him now? Of course. Dylan grinned, then barked toward the door. Waiter. A young woman walked in. The moment she entered, both Sophia and Chloe froze. Gabby? What was she doing here? As Gabby entered, she shot them a subtle look, a clear signal to stay quiet. Thankfully, neither of them was slow on the uptake. Mr. Zhao, how can I help you? Gabby asked, dressed in a hotel waitress uniform. Dylan didn't notice a thing. Take this young lady to the suite upstairs. Her friend is in there. Right away, Gabby said. Please follow me. Chloe was already feeling dizzy. The thought of seeing Leo pushed her to endure the discomfort and follow Gabby. Sophia tried to go with them, but was blocked by Dylan. What do you think you're doing? Sophia yelled as she watched Chloe disappear down the hall. No one answered her. Is there anything else? Dylan said coolly. If not, please leave. He turned and walked out of the room himself. Sophia panicked. Just as she was about to chase after Chloe, her phone rang. She wasn't going to answer, but then she saw the caller ID. Leo. Leo, Chloe is... Before she could finish, he cut her off. I know. Go wait for me at the entrance. Someone will be there to get you in a minute. His voice was faint, as if he were sick. Worried, Sophia still managed to nod. Okay. After hanging up, Leo's face was grim. Ethan Jiang. He really had it in him. Just as Leo was lost in thought, there was a knock on his door. He hurried to open it. Leo. The moment the door opened and Chloe saw his face, she threw herself at him. What have you been doing all night? You didn't tell me anything. And that photo I saw you with. Her voice trailed off, the words catching in her throat. She collapsed into his arms, her eyes fluttering shut, unable to stay open. Just like that one night. Looking at her flushed face, Leo waved a hand at Gabby. Sophia is still downstairs. She won't rest until she sees me. Go explain everything to her. Gabby understood. She helped him close the door and headed downstairs. Leo had only just woken up himself and felt weak all over. Still, he gritted his teeth and carried Chloe to the bed. He gently stroked her face. It's okay, he murmured. Just get some sleep. When you wake up, everything will be over. This time, there was no time for reflection. No time to worry about Ethan Jiang catching him red-handed. And certainly no thought of abandoning Chloe and running away. About 10 minutes later, Leo heard a loud crash from the VIP suite next door. The sound of a door being kicked and was followed by Ethan Jiang's furious roar. Where's Chloe? Mr. XIN, get over here and tell me, where's Chloe? She, Mr. XIN stood trembling. I don't know. She should be in here. Dylan Zhao was also stunned. He had entered the room and seen a figure lying on the bed. Thinking it was Chloe, he'd been filled with gleeful anticipation. He just stripped off his clothes and climbed onto the bed when the door was kicked open and a swarm of people poured in. And leading them was Ethan Jiang. In that instant, his heart leaped into his throat. But Ethan ignored him, kicking him aside as he rushed to the bed. But that wasn't Chloe. Ethan's face twisted in fury. He grabbed Dylan by the collar. Tell me, where is Chloe? Dylan was just as clueless. He had no idea. And where is Leo? Ethan demanded. Uncle Jiang, a calm voice drawled from the doorway. Were you looking for me? Leo slowly emerged from the adjacent room, an amused, mocking look on his face. For some reason, the sight of Leo made Ethan feel an inexplicable sense of relief. Dylan, however, stared in shock. How are you here? Weren't you? I wasn't supposed to be taken away by the cops, you mean? According to Richard Chien and Dylan Zhao's plan, they were going to use the girl to call the police and have Leo arrested for assault. With the skin under Leo's fingernails, the wounds on the girl, and a few so-called witnesses, Leo wouldn't have been able to argue his way out of it. For Dylan, it was about revenge and getting a dig in at Ethan Jiang, since all the blame could be pushed onto Leo. As for Richard Chien, if the plan had actually succeeded, he would have been the biggest winner. Unfortunately for them, they were up against Leo and Ethan. It was doomed from the start. Of course, Leo wasn't a god. There were things he hadn't anticipated, like Ethan Jiang. Leo ignored Dylan. As he walked past, he kicked him as if he were a piece of trash. What is this crap blocking the way? He muttered before walking right up to Ethan. Uncle Jiang, what are you doing here? Leo's expression was a mixture of amusement and challenge. Go on, spin me a story. I'm waiting to see how you explain this. Ethan's face was just as dark. He never imagined that, in the end, he would be the one played by Leo. But he didn't bother with excuses. He just asked, where's Chloe now? In her room, resting. Even though he'd already guessed, hearing it from Leo's lips was a relief. Good. Seeing his expression, Leo sneered. Good? Even if it wasn't good, wouldn't it be your fault? Don't tell me Chloe showing up here tonight had nothing to do with you. How dare you speak to Mr. Jiang like that? One of Ethan's subordinates barked at Leo before Ethan could respond. Leo shot the man a cold glance, then turned his attention back to Ethan. Ethan felt a pang of nostalgia. It had been a long time since anyone had dared to use that tone with him. But he wasn't angry. He had been in the wrong. He had enough self-awareness to admit that. I would never let anything happen to Chloe. Leo didn't doubt the truth of that statement. He just continued his scathing critique. You wouldn't let anything happen to her, but you were willing to let her walk into danger? You're a real piece of work as a father. Leo was disgusted by Ethan's actions. Was anything in the world really more important than his own daughter? Ethan was speechless, offering only a weak defense. As long as Chloe is safe. He quickly changed the subject. How did you get out of the police station? That's none of your concern. Clearly, Leo was done with him. He turned to go back to his room, as if the rest of the drama had nothing to do with him. Ethan wasn't about to grovel for Leo. He was wrong, and he admitted it. But apologize to a kid half his age? Impossible. He could only say, take care of Chloe. Leo waved a hand without looking back. Don't you worry. On that front, I'll definitely do a better job than you. They had completely ignored Dylan Zhao during their exchange. He was now seething, glaring at Ethan. Jiang, you'd better let me go, or my brother won't let you off the hook. Dylan wasn't Leo. When dealing with him, Ethan felt no guilt whatsoever. He walked over and slapped him across the face. The sharp crack echoed in the hallway, triggering the motion-activated lights to flood the corridor. Dylan fell to the floor, clutching his face in disbelief. You dare hit me. Ethan shook his hand, which seemed to sting a little. That slap had vented all the frustration he'd been holding in from his confrontation with Leo. Just then, Faye, having gotten the message, came upstairs. She wasn't surprised to see Ethan. She walked up to him and stood silently. She'd already been notified of her reassignment. To say she wasn't disappointed would be a lie. Gabby arrived with her. Mr. Jiang, Leo asked me to give this to you. Gabby handed him a small memory card. He said he won't get involved in your family's affairs. But as for the people who targeted him, if you don't want to deal with them, he will. Ethan took the card. He had a good idea of what was on it, everything that had happened in the suite tonight. Even Ethan had to admit, Leo had protected Chloe exceptionally well. He could have used this evidence to utterly destroy Richard Chien and Dylan Zhao. But he hadn't. Family scandals should be kept private. They had talked a lot about Chloe in that room. If the recording got out, it would ruin her reputation. Even though nothing had happened, she would inevitably face judgment from others. She had grown up in the spotlight, a constant focus of attention. The smallest flaw would be infinitely magnified. Ethan wanted to say thank you. But before he could, he heard Gabby talking to Faye. Faye, Leo said he appreciates the gesture. He also said that if you're not happy at your current company, you're welcome to jump ship. We might be a small operation now, but we're growing. I can't promise much, but I can guarantee one thing. The salary will make you happy. Ethan's face darkened, poaching his staff right in front of him. Go back and tell your boss, he said, his voice cold. Faye is doing just fine here, and her salary is something he can't afford. Gabby was just a messenger. She nodded politely, said goodbye, and turned to leave. As she walked away, she clutched her chest. Oh my God, did you see that? That was Ethan Jiang, the big shot from TV, the one who has powerful county officials bowing and scraping to him. And I actually talked to him. Leo had no intention of letting the conversations from that suite leak. There would be other chances. There was no need to gamble with Chloe's reputation. When he returned to the room, Chloe was already awake. She had been smart this time and hadn't drunk much. The effects of the drug had worn off quickly, but she still felt weak. Leo, it's so noisy outside. I think I heard my dad's voice. Chloe leaned against the headboard, looking at him with confusion. Leo went to the bathroom, wet a towel, and handed it to her. You heard wrong. Your dad's a busy man. Why would he be here? Go ahead and wash your face. Chloe stared at him blankly, then blinked. I want you to do it, she said in a cute, pouty voice, holding her arms out to him. She expected him to call her a silly girl and lovingly wipe her face. Instead, he tossed the towel at her. Wash it or don't. Chloe was about to throw a little tantrum, thinking she might be able to guilt him into softening up. It was a rare opportunity, after all. But then Leo added, Sophia and the others are still waiting outside. Are you going out looking like that? Chloe froze. She'd completely forgotten she'd come with Sophia. I'll wash it. She didn't know when it had started, but whenever Sophia was around, Chloe became intensely aware of her own appearance. It seemed to be the only area where she could find a sliver of confidence. When Leo and Chloe left the room, Ethan and his crew were gone. Leo had no intention of getting involved in what came next. He would just wait for the results. He was still furious with Ethan. Not because Ethan hadn't told him his plan. After all, Leo hadn't told Ethan his, either. He was furious because Ethan had dragged Chloe into it. As a father, there were a million reasons and a million ways to get Chloe away from him. But this was not one of them. If Chloe knew the truth, she would be heartbroken. Sophia and Gabby were waiting at the hotel entrance. When Leo approached, they were each holding a pint of Häagen-Dazs, eating ice cream in the freezing weather. Just looking at them made Leo feel cold. But the two of them seemed to be enjoying it, laughing and chatting. When they saw Leo and Chloe, they even asked, want some? Leo shook his head vehemently. Nope, can't afford it. It's okay, my treat, Sophia said generously. I'm a grown man. You think I'm going to let a girl treat me? Leo scoffed. No means no. Sophia giggled, not calling his bluff, and turned her attention to Chloe. She could tell Chloe was off, but she didn't press. Chloe, Faye left your car keys with me. The car's in the parking lot. We can drive back to campus. Chloe was fine with that, but Leo feigned disappointment. It's so late. They won't let guys into the dorms. Gabby, oblivious as ever, chimed in while licking her ice cream. It's fine. There are rooms at the gaming lounge. You can sleep there. It's not like you haven't before. She trailed off, suddenly realizing her mistake. Chloe immediately thought of something, and her face turned crimson. Leo squinted at Gabby, a slow, menacing smile spreading across his face. The look sent shivers down her spine. Boss, I just remembered I have something to do. I gotta go. You guys have fun. She turned to flee. You're not coming with us? Sophia called after her. Gabby waved frantically without looking back. Nope. If I don't leave now, the boss is going to kill me, she thought. Watching her retreating figure, even Leo had to admit she runs fast. He turned to the girls. All right, who's driving? Sophia and Chloe both looked at him. Is there a problem? Sophia simply handed him the keys, then took Chloe's arm and led her toward the parking lot. A rare sight indeed. As Leo drove, the passenger seat was empty. Both girls were in the back, chatting idly about nothing in particular. They both had the good sense not to mention the night's events. At the entrance to Sophia's university, Leo dropped her off. After a quick goodbye, he drove back toward his own campus. Normally, a car wouldn't be allowed in so late, but the security guard clearly recognized the Land Rover as Chloe's and waved them through. The university president had given special instructions, after all. Leo, downstairs from the women's dorm. Chloe leaned in and gently pecked him on the lips. Thank you, she said suddenly. Leo replied instinctively, You're welcome. Chloe smiled, then turned and walked toward her dorm. Once she was gone, Leo turned the car around and left. He didn't go back to his dorm, nor to the gaming lounge. He drove straight back to the gates of Sophia's university. She wasn't that easy to get rid of. Well, that was fast. On a bench near the university entrance, Sophia looked up as Leo approached, a playful smile on her face. Leo threw his hands up. Fast when I need to be, slow when I need to be. Sophia pretended not to understand what he meant. She scooted over, making room for him on the bench. As he sat down, she leaned her head against his shoulder. In the future, please don't do this again, okay? Gabby had told her the whole story. Even though it was over, Sophia's heart still pounded when she thought about it. What if Leo had really fallen into their trap? What then? Sophia couldn't bear to imagine it. She couldn't imagine a life without him. This was exactly why Leo hadn't told them. Knowing would only make them worry more. He had calculated everything, but he hadn't expected Chloe to figure it out so quickly, or that she would contact Sophia. And he certainly hadn't expected Ethan to actually drag her into it. I won't, Leo promised, though he knew you could never be sure about the future. But for now, he wouldn't add to her worries. Beneath that strong exterior was a sensitive heart. Sophia needed comfort, too. She knew he was just saying it. She turned to look at his face. If something like this happens again, can you at least tell me first? There are other ways to solve problems. You don't have to. Seeing him nod, she finally relaxed. In the dead of night, a cool breeze rustled through the trees. Even huddled together, they were both a little cold. Is there a room at the gaming lounge? Sophia asked suddenly. Leo wanted to say no, but seeing the look in her eyes, he gave up. There was a storage closet. Spike and the guys cleaned it out and turned it into a room. Sophia didn't care what kind of room it was. She just asked with a sly grin, Have you taken Chloe there? Her eyes were full of gossip, but also something else, something unreadable. If I said yes, would you believe me? Sophia thought for a moment. Any other time, I would. But right now? No. Why not? Leo asked, confused. Because you're a coward. Seeing how clever she was, Leo gave her a heartfelt thumbs up. So smart. The gaming lounge was finally quiet in the early morning hours, but the air was thick with stale smoke. The exhaust fans were running at full blast, but couldn't clear the smell. The all-nighter crowd smoked more. The night manager saw Leo and Sophia and gave them a nod. After confirming they didn't need any drinks, he went back to his work. The room had been cleaned that morning, so there was nothing out of the ordinary. Sophia looked around. It wasn't large, maybe 200 square feet, but it had all the necessities. She sat down on the bed and suddenly caught a familiar scent. She looked at Leo. Want something to drink? He asked. No. Sophia lay down on the bed, rolling over a few times. After a moment, she sniffed the bedding again. There. Now it smelled like her shampoo. That was much better. Sophia saw Leo staring at her, dumbfounded, and her face flushed. Of course, she wasn't about to explain her little territorial maneuver. She just snapped at him. What are you looking at? Go take a shower. You stink. Leo sniffed himself. He had showered at the hotel. There was no smell. But Sophia couldn't be wrong. The only one who could be wrong was him. So another shower it was. When he came out, Sophia was already in bed, tucked under the covers with only her head showing. Her clothes were neatly folded on the nightstand. As Leo sat on the edge of the bed, she pulled the covers over her face, too shy to look at him. Leo chuckled and slid in next to her. Holding her was incredibly comfortable. She was wearing a soft cotton long-sleeve shirt that outlined her slender, firm figure. The only downside was the lack of any extra softness around her waist to pinch. Though she was shy, Sophia loved the feeling of being curled up in his arms. She pressed herself tightly against him, her face growing hotter as she felt his hands begin to wander aimlessly. After a moment of silence, the atmosphere grew charged. Sophia quickly grabbed his hand and placed it on her cheek, changing the subject. Leo, what really happened tonight? Gabby told me some of it, but she only knew bits and pieces. Leo froze slightly and stared at her, his meaning obvious. We're lying in the same bed, and you want to chat. Sophia's gaze darted away, unable to meet his. Her voice trembled. Just tell me. Leo sighed. He knew she wouldn't be able to sleep until he explained. He softened his tone and calmly began. Remember the party we had after we graduated? The night you left with Chloe? Sophia asked, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. She still remembered that day. She was the one who had called Chloe to confirm. She couldn't quite place her feelings back then. She had just wanted to watch Leo from a distance, but there was also a part of her that felt a little resentful. Thinking back on it now, it felt like a lifetime ago. In the end, she couldn't let him go. She couldn't bear to watch him ride off into the sunset with someone else. Maybe that was what obsession felt like. Leo nodded and recounted the events of that night. As a listener, Sophia felt a wave of fear wash over her even after the fact. So today was the same as that. More or less, Leo continued. Except last time, it was just about Chloe, and I was collateral damage. This time, they wanted more. I had a plan in place from the start, and never intended to involve Chloe. I just didn't expect Ethan to be so ruthless. Hearing this, Sophia hugged him tightly. After a while, she said softly, You really care about her, don't you? Leo wanted to retort, Am I supposed to not care, and just be in it for the sex? Wouldn't that make me a total scumbag? But he thought better of it, and just looked at Sophia. My heart is here. It's not going anywhere. You jerk. Where are your hands going? Sophia yelped as she felt his hands move. Leo feigned innocence. On my heart. Just proving to you that it can't go anywhere. Sophia gritted her teeth. That's my heart. Exactly. It's yours. My heart is yours. Seeing his shameless grin, Sophia was a mixture of delighted and embarrassed. Since she couldn't stop him, she might as well go with the flow. It wasn't like she ever really wanted to stop him. Just as Leo's mind was racing and he was about to make his next move, Sophia stopped him. Darling, I have to tell you something. Leo replied quickly, I saw. You can eat ice cream today. Not that, Sophia said, blushing. It's something else. It's late. Let's talk about other things tomorrow. But Sophia wouldn't have it. I want to tell you that I'm a little angry today. Leo was confused. He looked down at her. She was looking right back at him, her eyes filled with an undeniable sense of grievance. Sensing he was about to use some sweet talk to shut her up, she spoke first. The kind of angry that can't be coaxed. So, Leo swallowed hard, forcing the words he was about to say back down. So what? So I have to punish you. Tonight, you're only allowed to hold me while I sleep. Leo froze for 2 seconds, then cried out in mock agony. You have such a cruel heart. Sophia just lifted her chin. I do. Let's see if you dare to hide things from me next time. Can we negotiate? Leo pleaded, not giving up. But Sophia just turned her head away. No negotiations. Fine. Leo fell silent. He switched off the light, pulled up the covers, and prepared to sleep. The room was pitch black. Jerk, you're really not going to negotiate? Hearing that, Leo immediately turned and wrapped his arms around her. Darling, he cooed, his tone changing on a dime. But Sophia just let out a sly giggle. Darling, good night. She lifted her head and kissed him on the cheek. She had just wanted to trick him into holding her. What could Leo do? He had to spoil her. She had been through a lot tonight. Sophia fell asleep quickly, her breathing soon becoming steady and even. Leo tried to pull his arm back, but the moment he moved, she tightened her grip, refusing to let go. He didn't know how long he'd slept, but his arm was completely numb. Through a crack in the curtains, he could see the sky was already brightening. He grabbed his phone with his other hand. 8 o'clock. He was about to wake Sophia, but when he looked down at her, he decided against it. He would just let her sleep a little longer, holding his arm. But a few moments later, she opened her eyes. Seeing him watching her, she pouted and stretched lazily. What time is it? 8:30. Still early, she murmured, about to go back to sleep. Then something clicked. Leo, where are my clothes? She had only worn a cream-colored long-sleeved shirt to bed. Her bra and panties had been placed on the nightstand before she went to sleep. But now, in the morning, they were gone. This was why Leo hadn't woken her up. A punishment? If there's a punishment, there has to be a reward. But as for where her clothes went, Leo honestly didn't know. He vaguely remembered her muttering something about being too hot in the middle of the night. You're still looking, Sophia yelped. Seeing that he had no intention of looking away, she quickly covered his eyes with her hand. I'm looking because you're beautiful. I wouldn't look at anyone else. Oh, Sophia said with a flicker of surprise. Really? When I can use my hands, my eyes aren't strictly necessary. Sophia rolled her eyes. Then she gave up, wrapping her arms around his neck and bringing her lips close to his ear. She breathed softly. Then tell me, whose is prettier? God, she's a siren, Leo thought, swallowing hard. They each have their. He was only halfway through a sentence when Sophia smothered his face with a pillow, furious and mortified. You jerk, you're actually comparing them. I'm heading to class. After breakfast, at the entrance to her university, Sophia waved goodbye to Leo. Before she left, she added a threat. Not a word about this morning. To anyone. I get it, Leo nodded. You get nothing, you big idiot, she shot back affectionately, then turned and walked away, leaving Leo to watch her go. He rubbed his nose, a satisfied smile on his face. She was still just a teenager. He couldn't bring himself to go all the way. Another year, and she'd be a grown woman. Leo was in a fantastic mood. The weather matched it perfectly, bright and sunny. It would have been even better if he hadn't gotten a call from Ethan Jiang. Uncle Jiang, I'm in class. What's up? In class. Ethan scoffed. Take a look at your school gate. Leo was sitting on the lawn next to the campus, basking in the sun and watching the construction of the nearly finished market at Mill District. Hearing Ethan, he stood up and looked over. Coincidentally, Ethan was looking right back at him. Though he wasn't thrilled, Leo walked over out of politeness. He was curious to hear what Ethan wanted. Good morning, Uncle Jiang. Ethan didn't seem to mind Leo's impatient tone, but the university's vice president Zhang, who was standing beside him, couldn't stand it. Leo, is that any way to speak to an elder? And are you skipping class again? Leo put on a sincere face and immediately apologized. You're right, I'm sorry. I'll go back to class right now. He made a move to walk around them and head back into the school. VP Zhang was stunned. What was going on here? It seemed Leo's resentment toward Ethan ran deep. Leo, Ethan called out, stopping him. I came today to talk to you both about the Innovate U competition. I've already promised the organizers that I'll arrange for someone to act as an angel investor. What was this? Compensation? Leo wasn't particularly interested. He was about to pretend he hadn't heard, but then Ethan added, I have to go out of town for a while. As for Chloe going abroad, let's forget about that for now. Leo spun around, a brilliant smile instantly appearing on his face. Uncle Jiang, have you had breakfast? The breakfast burritos at our cafeteria are amazing. Why don't you grab you one? VP Zhang, who was out of the loop, stared at them, completely dumbfounded. What in the world was happening? Ethan was speechless, but he said, not this time. I'll leave after we talk business. VP Zhang finally caught on. Right. Leo, let's go to my office first. But Ethan waved a hand. No need. VP Zhang, please go on with your work. I'd like to have a private word with Leo. VP Zhang was a perceptive man. He nodded agreeably. All right then, Mr. Jiang, feel free to contact me if you need anything. If you're free at noon, perhaps we can have a simple meal at the cafeteria. Ethan returned the pleasantry. I have a lot to do today, so I won't impose. Next time for sure. After VP Zhang left, Ethan turned to Leo, his expression complex. After a moment of silence, he asked, Where's Chloe's class? You came all this way and didn't tell her? Leo asked, puzzled. Ethan smiled like a doting father. I wanted to surprise her. At the end of the day, when it came to Chloe, he was just an ordinary father. An incompetent one, perhaps. Of course, only Leo knew that. In Chloe's eyes, he had always been a good dad. It's in that building over there. I'll take you. After a few steps, Ethan seemed to remember something. Oh dear, I forgot to ask the vice president to let that class's professor know, so I could sit in. Leo thought it was something serious. That's it. Since when did you need to give advance notice to sit in on a class here? But Ethan wouldn't know that. He probably thought universities were still the same as when he was a student. It's fine. Just tell me, and I'll get you in. Hearing this, Ethan gave Leo a deep, appraising look. You have that kind of pull. Leo didn't explain, just led the way. He didn't intend to speak, but Ethan had something to say to him. Slow down. Leo actually slowed his pace. When Ethan caught up, he teased, Uncle Jiang, are you walking so slow just so you can bask in the adoring gazes of all these college girls for a little longer? Ethan was a major figure, frequently featured in business magazines. Professors often used the Jiang Corporation as a case study. As a result, many students on campus recognized him. They had only ever seen him in newspapers and on the news. Today, they were seeing him in person. The excitement was palpable. The news spread like wildfire, and more students gathered to catch a glimpse, their eyes filled with pure admiration. This was exactly why Leo wanted to walk faster. Ethan, though in his late 40s, didn't show his age. He radiated the mature, successful charm that was fatally attractive to college students. Walking next to him was like being under a spotlight. Ethan was used to it. He'd given talks at many universities, and the situation was always the same. He had called Leo over for a reason. But hearing Leo's teasing, he sighed. If I were 20 years younger, I might actually have that thought. But now, forget it. Oh, Leo said with surprise. Then why did you call me over? Ethan lowered his voice. There are some things that won't be easy to say when we see Chloe. Leo got the hint and leaned in closer. Go on. Ethan stopped walking and whispered, Did you know ahead of time that the Hamlin Group was about to collapse? He held up a hand. Don't rush to deny it. Believe it or not, yesterday, when I found out they were planning to frame you, I made arrangements. You wouldn't have spent the night in a jail cell. Leo didn't really believe him, but then again, he couldn't see why Ethan would lie. To win his favor? Unlikely. He nodded slightly, indicating for him to continue. But I didn't expect you to never even get taken in. It seems you have your own connections and channels here. I want to ask. Dylan Zhao knew too much. He confessed everything as soon as he was brought in. The Hamlin Group is finished. Logically, Ethan should have been pleased. But Leo could clearly see that he was even more serious than before. Uncle Jiang, what about Richard Qian? Insufficient evidence, plus someone vouched for him. This incident didn't really affect him. It was clear from Ethan's tone that he was frustrated, which is one of the reasons I came to find you today. To deal with him, we still have to go after his business projects. Leo nodded in understanding. Richard Qian hadn't been directly involved, and unlike the notorious Dylan Zhao, he didn't have a long rap sheet. Combined with his powerful background, taking him down wouldn't be easy. Ethan continued, I have to leave for a while to handle some things. During this time, I'll have to trouble you to look after Chloe. Leo stopped in his tracks, turning to stare at him in disbelief. Sensing his gaze, Ethan shrugged. Richard and I have some business dealings. We used to have an unspoken understanding. Now that things are out in the open, it's time to clean house. Better to avoid future trouble. As brothers-in-law, it was normal to have some business overlap. But what Leo couldn't understand was Ethan's tone. Something was off. How long will you be gone? A week or two if it's quick. Maybe a month or two if it's slow. They chatted as they walked into the academic building. Classes were in session in many of the rooms. Looking at the students inside, Ethan sighed. It's good to be young. You're young too, Leo said offhandedly. Ethan smiled. I'll take that as a compliment. What else would it be? It was a compliment. The old Leo would never have been so brazen with Ethan. But after last night, his mentality had shifted, and he wasn't the only one. Ethan had changed, too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come here today. It's funny, isn't it? The fake compliments are always the most pleasant to hear. If you like hearing them, I'll just tell you lies from now on. At that, Ethan frowned and shot Leo a sideways glance. Are you getting a little too full of yourself today? Leo thought for a moment. I don't think it's that. I think I'm just overjoyed. Was Leo happy? Of course. Chloe didn't have to leave, and from the sound of it, Ethan would be too busy to meddle with her for a while. It was great news. Fantastic news. But Ethan just snorted. What do you think would happen if I told your parents about all your little messes? I haven't dealt with your father much, but I can tell he's a man of integrity. Leo answered without a second's thought. I'd run away from home. It's not like I can't support myself. At worst, I'll just have a new baby brother or sister the next time I go back. Ethan fell silent. Leo was exactly the kind of person who would do that. Still, he offered a piece of advice. You can't have it all in this world. You'd better think carefully about the road ahead. Leo felt that Ethan was being unusually easy to talk to today. It was almost out of character, but he had the sense not to ask any more questions. Chloe was in class when she noticed a crowd gathering at the door. The noise annoyed the old professor, who put down his teaching materials and went out to quiet them down. Just then, Leo and Ethan walked up. The professor didn't recognize Leo, but he knew Ethan. You're Mr. Jiang. Ethan extended a hand. Hello, I'm Ethan Jiang. Hearing his name, the classroom erupted in excited murmurs. Several students looked over at Chloe. Chloe, is that your dad? Stacy Dong pushed her arm. He's so handsome, much better looking than on TV. Her eyes were practically sparkling. The comment put Chloe on high alert. What are you doing? Do you need a stepmom? Ow! Stacy yelped as Chloe pinched her side. That hurts. Chloe shot her a furious glare. How could she say that? I treat you like a sister, and you're trying to move up a generation? But then she thought about her parents' relationship. It wasn't exactly great. Sigh. Chloe let out a breath. But when she saw Leo standing next to her father, introducing him to the old professor, an inexplicable sense of comfort washed over her. Leo probably didn't even remember his own professors' names, but he knew basically all of Chloe's. Professor Lee, Uncle John would like to sit in on one of your classes, if that's all right. Yes, of course. Professor Lee was ecstatic. For him, it felt like an honor. Then I won't impose, Ethan said, following the professor into the classroom. Leo moved first, heading straight for Chloe. Stacy wisely gave up her seat. Leo, why is my dad here? Chloe asked, confused. He missed you. Is that all? Chloe clearly didn't believe him. Leo didn't believe it either. The real reason Ethan was here was out of guilt. He wanted to do something to make himself feel better. After wrestling with it all night, the only thing he could probably think of was letting her stay. There was nothing else that would make Chloe instantly happy. But Leo couldn't say that. What happened last night had to stay in the past. Your dad thinks there aren't many outstanding guys like me around, so he's decided to entrust you to me. He came here specifically to tell you to listen to me. Got it? Chloe nodded earnestly. I know. Seeing her dazed, earnest expression, a strange emotion stirred in Leo's heart. But what he said was, if you're going to listen, then pay attention in class. Chloe's heart was pounding. She was terrified that her dad had told Leo to leave her, and that he'd come here today with Leo to make it official. She was even more afraid that Leo had already caved under the pressure. If that were true, Chloe couldn't bear to think about it. You jerk, I'm not leaving. Don't you dare give up. Okay, Leo knew she had misunderstood. It made sense. He usually gave her a heads up before he came to sit in on her classes. His sudden appearance today, especially with her father, was bound to make her overthink things. But this was something Ethan had to tell her himself. It was the surprise he had prepared for her. All Leo could do for now was offer some comfort. Don't talk about you not leaving. Even if you wanted to leave, I wouldn't let you. The tone was a bit domineering, but as long as Chloe liked it, that was enough. MHM. Ethan entered the classroom, but didn't sit next to Chloe. He just found a random empty seat. His presence created a subtle shift in the room. The professor lectured more earnestly. The students paid less attention. It was a relief when the bell finally rang. The professor came over, exchanged contact information with Ethan, and then left. The professor was gone, but the number of students in the hallway was growing. And by the looks of it, it was only going to get worse. Chloe, Leo, let's go, Ethan said, realizing the situation was getting out of hand. Let's go. All along the way, people greeted Ethan. He responded politely. A few bold and enthusiastic students came up to ask for autographs, and he even praised them, saying they had limitless potential and should consider an internship at the Jiang Corporation after graduation. He played the part of the benevolent tycoon perfectly. Leo didn't expose him. Interns? They were the cheapest, most disposable labor. After a considerable effort, they finally broke free from the crowd. Ethan let out a sigh of relief. Your classmates here are certainly enthusiastic. Chloe was in no mood for jokes. She asked directly, Dad, why did you come today? You didn't even tell me. Ethan glanced at Leo. Seeing him shrug, he knew Leo hadn't told her about his decision to let her stay. Sometimes Leo's tact was truly impressive. Chloe, I went home and thought about it carefully. I suddenly realized that going abroad isn't necessarily better than staying here. If you don't want to go, then don't go. The immense surprise left Chloe momentarily stunned. It took her 2 seconds to react, and then she grabbed her father's hand. Dad, you're the best. A constant smile remained on Ethan's face, but inwardly he sighed. As long as Chloe is happy, that's enough, he told himself. We can deal with the rest later. All right, I have to go. I have other business to attend to. Your mother isn't in Riverbend right now either, so if you have nothing else to do, just stay here in the area. Don't go anywhere, and focus on your studies. No matter what happens, don't panic. Perhaps because she was so overjoyed, Chloe didn't notice the strange undertones in her father's words. She just nodded eagerly. Okay. Seeing that her father was still looking at her, she added, Dad, don't you have things to do? Aren't you leaving? She was desperate to share her joy with Leo, but with her father here, it felt a bit awkward. Seeing this, Ethan's face was filled with mock resentment. He shot a sour look at Leo. Leo could completely understand his feelings at that moment. If he put himself in Ethan's shoes, and one day his own daughter was swept off her feet by some emo kid with dyed hair, riding a flashy motorcycle, not beating the kid to a pulp would be a sign of restraint. But Leo didn't dye his hair, ride a motorcycle, or act like a punk. Uncle Jiang, don't you worry. I'll take good care of our Chloe. Ethan didn't say another word. He just turned and walked away. As they watched his car drive off, Chloe couldn't hold back any longer. She leaped onto Leo's back. Leo, I'm not leaving. I don't have to go abroad anymore. As she spoke, tears of joy streamed down her face. The prospect of going abroad had been a massive weight on her shoulders, and now it was finally gone. You know, I never planned on letting you go anyway. I was about to tell your dad that if he dared to make you leave, I'd dare to make him a grandfather. What a shame. Before he could finish, his lips were sealed by a wet, passionate kiss. Chloe had been suppressing her emotions for too long and needed a release. Chloe was ecstatic. Leo was too. But his happiness wasn't just about Chloe staying. It was also because he just gotten a call from Mr. Ho. You can get ready. They're liquidating the assets now. The auction should start in about 2 weeks. Have you made your selections? I have. After discussing business, Leo was about to hang up when he suddenly added, Thank you. Last night, if it hadn't been for his help, Leo wouldn't have gotten out so easily. But Mr. Ho didn't take the credit. You were the victim. There's no need for thanks. If you had actually done something wrong, saying thank you wouldn't have helped. Leo knew his personality, so he didn't press the issue. After hanging up, he looked at Chloe. She had been clinging to him ever since her dad left, refusing to let go. She had even waited outside the door when he went to the bathroom. While he was on the phone, she had remained silent, just gazing at him adoringly. When he hung up, she said, Leo, let's go pick out furniture and appliances. They had talked about it for a long time, but other things had always gotten in the way. Today, they finally had time. Just as Leo was about to nod, Chloe added, Let's invite Sophia. Leo looked up at the sun. The weather was beautiful. Unfortunately, he was pretty sure Sophia had class today. He thought for a moment and said, You should call and ask her. Chloe pouted, then actually took out her phone and dialed. It didn't ring for long before Sophia picked up. Chloe, what's up? Sophia's voice was very soft. Even on speakerphone, it was hard to hear. Sophia, are you in class? I was wondering if we could all go look at furniture and appliances today. Sophia immediately replied, I don't have class today. Wait for me at my school gate. I'll be right out. Oh, is Leo coming? Chloe was about to say yes, but Leo cut in first. Nope. Chloe looked at him in surprise. You're not going? Nope. What's the point if I have to keep my hands in my pockets? That's no fun. Leo was just talking tough. He was hoping they'd get the hint. But when Sophia came out, she completely ignored him, walked over to Chloe, linked her arm in hers, and started walking away, leaving Leo standing there alone. Huh. Women, Leo scoffed. You'll pay for this sooner or later. What are you daydreaming about? Let's go. Just as Leo was contemplating what price she would pay, Sophia turned her head and hurried him along. His train of thought was broken. He could only jog to catch up. Coming. He shamelessly squeezed between them. To their astonishment, he slung an arm over each of their shoulders. Chloe and Sophia were about the same height, so it didn't look awkward at all. Neither of them had expected him to be so bold. Chloe froze, staring at him, momentarily speechless. Sophia just glanced at him once before turning her head and pretending to be calm. It was a good thing there weren't many people around, otherwise Leo's stunt would have landed him in hot water again. There are people coming. Aren't you going to take your arms down? Chloe finally hissed through gritted teeth. Leo knew not to push his luck. He sheepishly retracted his hands, then played dumb. What are you two so nervous about? Hurry up. He then walked ahead on his own. Watching his back, Sophia sighed. What a handful. She followed after him. The furniture district wasn't far from the university. It was on the outskirts of the city, only a 10-minute drive. Leo didn't have any particular requirements for furniture or appliances. He didn't care about looks or quality. As long as it worked, it was fine. If he were picking things out by himself, he could have finished everything in one store. But with two other people, it was a different story. They were meticulous, striving for perfection. Eventually, Leo couldn't take it anymore. I just got a call from Spike. Something came up. You guys go ahead and shop. He thought they might try to keep him there, but they just waved him off without even turning around. Bye. You can go. It's not like you're much help here anyway. Leo rolled his eyes. Fine, I'll leave. Little did he know that the moment he turned, both Chloe and Sophia watched him go. Chloe said suddenly, Sophia, my dad agreed to let me stay. Sophia's expression didn't change much. A slight smile touched her lips. Congratulations. He must be very happy that you don't have to leave. Yes, as long as he's happy, that's enough. MHM. Chloe nodded emphatically. Sophia, we haven't had a meal or just chatted in so long. Let's get together tonight, just the two of us. Just us. Okay. The next couple of weeks were much more relaxed for Leo. He attended classes during the day, and at night, he'd occasionally grab some barbecue, sing some karaoke, and enjoy the nightlife of a young adult. The Hamlin Group's assets and equity have been inventoried. The public auction is expected to start next week, Connor's son said, munching on a barbecue skewer. But it's strange. The starting bid for 3 of the companies is set at a flat $10 million. Their valuation is only a little over that. Logically, the starting bid shouldn't be so high. At a roadside barbecue stand, Connor was updating Leo on the Hamlin Group situation. Leo already knew all this, of course, but he didn't need to let on. It was better to play dumb. There were a lot of assets up for auction this time. Real estate, vehicles, and stock in various companies. A lot of people were paying attention. Connor had been keeping a close eye on it, hoping to snag a deal. Leo didn't explain. Dude, I really have to thank you, Connor said. If I hadn't listened to you with them early. Man, I can't even imagine. Leo had no particular reaction. It was just a mutually beneficial arrangement. He took a sip of the warm, sweet mulled beer. It was comforting. Let's not talk about that. We should be thinking about the future of the food delivery business. I've seen you guys have been doing pretty well lately. Besides Connor, the other guys from the 718 Express were there too. They hadn't been able to get a word in while Leo and Connor were talking business, but at the mention of food delivery, they instantly perked up. With Connor's help, we've pretty much covered the entire University City market, Shane C.S. said, holding a skewer, his mouth greasy. Right now, the problem is we have too few partner restaurants, and the payment system is a pain. We've had quite a few delivery and dash incidents. He took another bite. But overall, it's developing pretty well. Leo knew it wouldn't be easy. The technology at the time had its limits. Many problems couldn't be solved. He could only offer some encouragement. His focus wasn't on this part of the business right now. How well they did was up to them. With Connor involved, it couldn't be too bad. After some more small talk, Connor's phone rang. When he hung up, his expression was incredibly complicated. What's wrong? Mark Leong, sitting next to him, asked. They had all gotten to know each other well over the past few weeks. Connor shook his head. You guys eat up. I have to go to the hospital. He stood up quickly, leaving in such a hurry that he forgot his jacket on the back of his chair. His departure soured the mood. Leo, what's up with Connor? Chad Xiong asked. Is everything okay? Leo frowned. It wasn't like Connor to be so flustered. It should be fine. We'll ask him tomorrow. Let's go back to campus. The others agreed. They stood up from their chairs. I don't know when the market is going to open. It's such a pain to ride half an hour just for some barbecue, one of them complained. It should be soon. I heard they've already started the interior renovations. It'll probably be open by next semester. To this day, they still had no idea that the development was Leo's. And Leo was happy not to tell them, lest it create a sense of distance between them. Though that was probably an overthought on his part. Distance? No way. If they knew it was Leo's project, they'd brag about it until the cows came home. Just as Leo was about to leave, his phone vibrated. He picked it up. It was a message from Kat He. Leo, I'm at your school gate. Sophia is with me. Where are you? The Hamlin Group auction was about to start. Leo had promised Kat he would help her buy the media company under the Hamlin umbrella. That's why she was here. He sent her the address of the barbecue stand and sat back down. Mark and the others looked at him, confused. Leo, aren't you leaving? Leo nodded. Then I won't say anything. You guys head back on your own. Oh, by the way, the campus bike sharing system reports all unreturned bikes to their respective schools at 10:30 every night. You get charged for not returning them on time. My card is a special VIP card. It doesn't get charged. Leo got into the BMW. The heat was on, and it was much more comfortable than riding a bike. Sophia was in the back seat. When she saw him, she smiled sweetly. Are you full? Leo burped in response. Sophia pinched her nose and fanned the air. You reek. You were drinking again. Reek, Leo retorted, then leaned closer to her. Smell again. Ahem. Kat, watching their flirtatious exchange in the rearview mirror, finally couldn't resist a dry cough. She thought Sophia would be grateful, since she had just been pushing Leo away. But Sophia just asked, Kat, is your throat bothering you? If you're not feeling well, you can just drop us off at school and go see a doctor. Kat was speechless. She stomped on the gas, and the car shot forward with a roar. Sophia, tell your big sister Kat that driving like this is wrong, Leo said to Sophia once he'd adjusted to the powerful acceleration. His hand was holding hers. She rolled her eyes. You'll get used to it. She just likes to throw little tantrums. Just ignore her. Kat couldn't listen to this anymore. Sophia, I'm your sister. How can you talk about me like that? Sophia said matter-of-factly, it's fine. Leo isn't an outsider. It doesn't matter if he knows. It was clear Sophia was in a good mood today. Kat continued driving, though she slowed down considerably. I haven't eaten yet. Is there anything to eat around here? Sophia replied, everything around the university is closed by now, and the food isn't that great anyway. We should go into the city. I need to go to the Women and Children's Hospital anyway. The hospital? Kat exclaimed, slamming on the brakes. What's wrong with you? She asked, turning around, her eyes darting pointedly towards Sophia's stomach. Feeling her gaze, Sophia smacked her with a throw pillow from the back seat. What are you thinking? It's for one of my roommates. Leo had also been surprised, not because he was thinking what Kat was, but just worried that Sophia was sick. Hearing her explanation, he breathed a sigh of relief. He connected it to Connor's sudden departure earlier and asked uncertainly, is it Holly Chiao? Sophia nodded. MHM. Okay, don't ask any more questions. Let's just go. Kat also relaxed. As long as it wasn't Sophia. She started the car again. Even at night, the hospital was busy. You could see pregnant women on the arms of their families strolling down the hallways. Holly's room was a private one. It was eerily quiet. Holly was lying on the bed, and Connor was sitting in a chair beside her. Neither of them spoke. The atmosphere was heavy. It wasn't until Sophia walked in that Holly managed a weak smile. Sophia, you're here. MHM. Sophia nodded, then shot a look at Leo. Leo got the message. He walked over to Connor and nudged him. Hey, come have a smoke with me outside. Connor hesitated for a second, then stood up. Okay. Once they were gone, Sophia asked Holly, what are you thinking? Holly bit her lip, her eyes fixed on the door that had just closed. I don't know. Sophia, I'm so scared. As she spoke, she started to cry. Outside, Leo and Connor left the building and went to the designated smoking area. They squatted by a flower bed, not saying a word. As an outsider, the best thing Leo could do was keep his mouth shut. No amount of comforting words could compare to just sharing a cigarette. It was Connor who spoke first. Leo, what do you think I should do? Leo threw up his hands. I have no idea, but... He paused for a second, then took a final drag of his cigarette before stubbing it out. But if it were me, I wouldn't let her be so helpless. Some things, once you do them, you have to own up to them. Connor knew this, of course, but he had his own worries. Leaving aside the fact that they were both still students, just getting it past his family would be a huge hurdle. That was his biggest concern. Leo stood up and clapped him on the shoulder. If you love her, you love her. No matter how hard it is, that doesn't change. You can't lie to yourself. With that, he walked away. It was cold outside. The BMW was much more comfortable. No wonder so many people would rather cry in a BMW than smile on the back of a bicycle. Where's Sophia? Kat asked when she saw Leo come back alone. Leo shrugged. She has some things to take care of. She'll be back in a bit. Kat didn't dwell on it. She just looked at Leo and warned, Sophia is still young. Please be a decent human being. Leo turned to look out the window, pretending he hadn't heard. Kat sighed, her tone softening. Please don't hurt her, okay? Though they bickered whenever they met, at the end of the day, their relationship was genuinely strong. Hurt is a strong word. I don't know what you mean by it. All I can promise is that I'll make every day she's with me a happy one. Kat glanced at him in the rearview mirror and sighed again. As long as she's happy. But if one day she gets tired of it and wants to leave, please let her go. Her voice seemed to hold a plea. But Leo just said, that day will never come. He didn't want to discuss it further. Before she could continue, he quickly changed the subject. That media company's stock. What's your budget to buy it all at the auction? $20 million. Kat said, that's the absolute most I can afford. Leo nodded. All right, I'll get it for you for $10 million. All you have to do now is shut up. Kat stared for 2 seconds, then nodded eagerly. Okay, boss. Then, perhaps feeling that saving all that money was a little too easy, she added teasingly, boss, on the way back. Do you want to make the car break down halfway? Just as Leo was about to agree, Sophia finally came back down. She closed the car door and saw both Kat and Leo staring at her. What? She asked, puzzled. Leo shook his head. Nothing. Your big sister Kat was just saying her car is going to break down later. Oh, Sophia replied without missing a beat. Then we'll just take a cab. Kat still hadn't eaten, so after they left the hospital, the three of them found a decent restaurant nearby. The moment they sat down, Leo turned to Sophia. It's off. Remember Holly one, right? Sophia was pouring Leo a glass of iced tea. She nodded. Of course. We still talk pretty often. Why? She was curious why he'd bring her up out of the blue. Kat took a sip of her own tea, her eyes flicking over. Who's this now? Meeting their gazes, Leo said casually, what do you think would happen if I just, for no reason at all, gave her a company worth over $1 million? A hem choke cough. Kat sprayed the tea she just swallowed, hacking until her eyes watered. When she finally caught her breath, she stared at him, bewildered. Is she gorgeous? Are you in love with her? Leo shrugged. Not particularly gorgeous, and definitely not in love. Then why? Kat was completely lost. Leo shot her an annoyed look. I'm just throwing it out there. Do you have to get to the bottom of everything? Kat snapped her mouth shut and shot Sophia a look that clearly said, what is he playing at? An idea clicked for Sophia. She asked tentatively, is this a has-to-be-done kind of thing? It has to be done. Sophia got it. The only reason Leo was bringing this up was to give her a heads up so she wouldn't overthink it later. So how do you want to do it? Subtly. I don't want her to know it's from me. He paused, and I can't give her any reason to refuse. He was telling Sophia for 2 reasons. 1, so she'd be in the loop, and 2, because he needed her help. He barely knew Holly. From their few conversations, she seemed like a stubborn girl. The last thing he needed was for her to get the wrong idea, or worse, figure things out. That's where Sophia came in. Okay, so what's the subtle approach? You get her to go into business with you, Leo said. Give her a 50% stake. I'll handle the rest. Just handing over a company was too obvious. He'd never considered that. The safest play was to set up a new shell company, then use it to acquire a target company through a merger. That way, even if she had suspicions, there'd be no proof. It would just look like a stroke of incredible luck. Sophia nodded, asking no more questions. If Leo was doing this, he had his reasons. By the time they finished dinner, it was nearly midnight. Kat had booked a 2-bedroom suite at a hotel. She turned to Leo. You can just grab a cab back to campus, right? I'm worried about Sophia's safety, so I'm not letting her go back tonight. Leo shot her an exasperated look. Seriously, Kat? You're worried about her safety, but not mine? Kat's response was infuriatingly logical. You're exactly why I'm worried about her. Seeing him glare, she quickly offered a placating smile. Besides, it's probably hard to get a cab this late. You take my car back. Just bring it back in the morning. Leo was about to argue when his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and then his eyes locked on Sophia. She gave him a tiny, conspiratorial wink. He suppressed a grin. Fine, I'm gone. Without another word, he turned and left. Even Kat was surprised. When did he get so agreeable? It's not like it would have been a problem for him to stay. We'd only be using one of the bedrooms. Sophia quickly cut her off. Who said I was sleeping with you? She turned and headed for the elevators. Leo hadn't gone far. It wasn't safe for him to be out alone this late. He was finishing a cigarette by a planter on the sidewalk when Sophia's call came through. Come on up. Quietly. Leo smiled. Sophia could be really adorable sometimes. The text he'd received at the hotel was from her, telling him to come back up after Kat fell asleep. But he still refused. You go ahead and sleep. I've got some things to take care of. Sophia was silent for a couple of seconds, then asked in a small voice, Are you mad? Not at all, Leo said quickly. I just don't want your sister to get the wrong idea. Once she's gone, we'll have plenty of chances to... He was letting his thoughts run away with him. Sophia couldn't listen anymore. Jerk, she huffed and hung up. She switched off the light and closed her eyes, but her mind was filled with him. For some reason, her thoughts drifted to Holly Chiao, and she couldn't help but wonder. If it were Leo, what would he do? Leo, get in. Hanky pulled his car up to the curb. Spike was in the passenger seat. They didn't have a single complaint about being called out this late by Leo. In fact, they were buzzing with excitement. Apex Construction had just won the contract for the Mill District redevelopment. Thanks to Spike and Kyle Yan's groundwork, there hadn't been any major issues with the residents. Leo had promised them a celebration, but they hadn't found the time until now. It was late, but for guys with a nightlife, the party was just getting started. Leo slid into the back seat. You get the cash? He asked Spike. Spike grinned, tossing a heavy backpack over the seat. 30 grand. I've never seen this much cash in my life. Leo unzipped the bag and glanced inside at the neat stacks of bills, nodding in satisfaction. Promises were cheap. Cold. Hard cash was real. Hank drove them to a karaoke bar downtown, its massive sign flashing with multicolored neon lights. The moment Leo stepped out of the car, a man in a sharp suit hurried over to greet him. Leo, you finally made it. As he got closer, Leo realized who it was. Kyle? Look at you, all suited up. Kyle gave a sheepish smile. It's all thanks to you, man. I'll never forget it. Seriously, thank you for what you did. Not just for me, but for all the residents in the Mill District. If it wasn't for you, we would have been steamrolled by the Hanlon Group. A flicker of fear crossed Kyle's face. Now that the Hanlon Group's crimes were public, he realized just how dangerous it had been to stand up to them. It only made his admiration for Leo grow. It seemed like there was nothing this guy couldn't do. "Leo, we got a pretty sweet payout from the buyout. Tonight's on me," Kyle announced, shaking his wrist for emphasis. The massive gold watch he was wearing was impossible to miss. Leo was momentarily stunned. "Now that's a new money look if I've ever seen one." He smiled and clapped Kyle on the shoulder. "Let's save it for next time." Kyle knew the hundred-some thousand he'd gotten was pocket change to Leo, so he didn't push it. He just grinned. "All right, Leo, but next time I call, you gotta show up." Spike walked over and gave Kyle a friendly smack on the back of the head. "Let's go." "What are you waiting for?" Kyle didn't mind at all. Yeah, let's go." The private room was already packed. As Leo walked in, Gabby and Ing each aimed a party popper at him and let it rip. "Welcome, boss." The room erupted in laughter. Leo sighed softly. It had been a long time since he'd felt this. Unfamiliar, yet nostalgic. He brushed the colorful streamers from his hair, walked to the front of the room, and picked up the microphone. "I'll keep it short," he said, his voice cutting through the chatter. "Thank you all for everything you've done for Apex Construction." Then, to a collective gasp, he upended the backpack, dumping its entire contents onto the coffee table. "Leo, what is this?" One of the managers from Apex stared at the mountain of cash, sucking in a breath. He'd seen money before, but never so much of it piled up so neatly. Leo didn't waste words. "It's your bonus. How much you each get is up to you." Everyone in this room was someone Leo trusted, more or less. 4 of them were from Apex, all recommended by Hank. Leo trusted Hank, so by extension, he trusted his people. "Leo, this is too much, isn't it?" Hank was stunned. He was a veteran at Apex, held a high position, and wasn't hurting for money, but this still shocked him. Leo was pleased with their reactions. He smiled calmly. There'll be more where that came from. He knew that compared to the value they brought him, this was nothing. You had to feed your people well if you wanted them to work their asses off for you. This was the effect he was after. He gestured to Spike. "Hey." Spike just stared, dumbfounded. Oh, what?" "Get over here and get your money." Spike scratched his head, embarrassed. "Maybe. You can skip me." He knew he'd already gotten more than enough from Leo. He was almost ashamed to take any more. Leo grabbed a pair of dice from the table and chucked it at him. "What's with the bullshit?" Hit. Spike grabbed a thick stack of bills, a huge grin spreading across his face. Everyone in the room got a share. After the initial distribution, there was still over $10,000 left. Leo sat down on the sofa. "For the rest," he said to the room, "you come up one by one. Take what you think you've earned. Take too little, and you're only cheating yourself. Take too much. Well, that's fine too. You just won't be taking any next time." The room fell silent. The only sound the soft crack of Leo cracking open a sunflower seed. He had them right where he wanted them. A little greed was fine, but insatiable greed was not. If you wanted another payday, you'd better bust your ass. A long moment passed with no one moving. Finally, Gabby stood up and walked to the table. She picked up a single $100 bill. After a moment's thought, she took another one. For her, it seemed that was enough. Her move broke the dam. The others slowly got up, but no one dared to take much. Just as Leo sighed, a little disappointed, he saw a man walk up and grab 2 unopened, banded stacks of bills. Everyone stared at him, but he didn't flinch. He walked straight over to Leo. "Leo, we won't let you down." Leo just nodded. The man was from Apex Construction. Leo remembered him, head of the engineering department. Hank had spoken very highly of him. Leo couldn't recall the exact praise, just a phrase or two about him being steady, reliable, and experienced. This didn't look very steady. Just then, Hank sent Leo a discreet text. "Jerry's daughter is having surgery. He's desperate for the money." Leo saw the message and quickly put his phone away, his eyes returning to the group. Spike, who claimed he didn't want any, was the least polite of all when it was his turn. Aside from Jerry, he took the most. Kyle got a share too, but he'd probably just gotten his buyout check and wasn't impressed by this amount. He took a single $100 and walked away. In the end, several $1,000s remained on the table. Leo wasn't close with some of the people here. In the future, once he knew them better, he'd chew them out one by one for being cowards, too scared to even take money when it was offered. Leo walked over and gathered the remaining cash. "So, are you guys just going to sit here all night?" Hearing that, Ing smiled, got up, and went to the karaoke machine. Gabby followed her. A moment later, music filled the room. Some people sang, others drank. It was a relaxed atmosphere. Leo, however, was under siege. Nearly everyone came over to toast him. After a couple of rounds, even with the watered-down karaoke bar booze, he started to feel sick. The singing continued. Gabby and Ing were hogging the mics. Occasionally someone would try to jump in for a song, but Spike would quickly shoo them away, muttering something about not harassing his girls. Leo shook his head to clear it and got up to use the restroom. The moment he stepped out of the room, someone slammed into him. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The voice sounded familiar. Leo looked down. He thought for a moment before saying uncertainly, Wendy. When he didn't seem to hear him, another man came running toward them, shouting, You think you could just take the money and run? It doesn't work like that. I'll give the money back. I don't want. Wendy said, her voice choked with tears. You don't want it now? Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea how important that client was? Wendy was frantic, her body trembling. I'm sorry, but... The man ignored her, turning to Leo. Hey kid, move it. This has nothing to do with you. Leo had met Wendy twice before, once on the train, once at the coffee shop. He never expected a third time, especially not here. If he didn't know her, he would have stayed out of it. But he did know her, and she was from back home. What's going on? Wendy had been in such a panic she hadn't noticed who she'd run into. At the sound of his voice, she looked up. Leo, She started to say something, but it came out as, help me. Oh, so you two know each other? The man chasing her sneered. Still, I'd advise you to mind your own business. Leo sighed. He pushed open the door to his private room. Get inside, he said to Wendy. She nodded quickly and slipped past him. Leo ignored the man and walked away. In the instant the door was open, the man saw the crowd inside and decided not to follow. Though everyone in the room was curious about the newcomer, they were all smart enough not to say anything. Leo didn't bother explaining. He poured Wendy a glass of water. What happened? Wendy bit her lip, opening her mouth to speak several times, but saying nothing. Leo decided to drop it. But just then, she suddenly asked Leo, Your dad is a lawyer, right? Leo looked at her, confused. He'd never told her that. Sensing his confusion, Wendy explained, I saw it on your live journal. Leo vaguely remembered now. Back in high school, he made a bunch of posts like that, complaining about how his dad, the great lawyer, was so whipped he wouldn't even give him an allowance. Is something wrong? Wendy nodded emphatically. My mom works at a garment factory. She was injured on the job, and not only are they refusing to pay or apologize, they're threatening us. After hearing her story, Leo fell into a thoughtful silence. After a long moment, he asked, The garment factory where your mom works, was it bought out by a guy named Chien back in June? I heard they got a new boss around June, Wendy said, looking at Leo in surprise. I don't know his last name, though. Do you? Do you know it? Leo shook his head. Not well. He dealt with most of the garment factories in Riverbend. The one Wendy was talking about sounded vaguely familiar. He'd heard his uncle mention it before. But to be sure, he decided to call Uncle Carl. It was almost midnight. Carl was long asleep. Now middle-aged, he was militant about his health. But the phone only rang a few times before he picked up. Leo, what's wrong? Seeing it was Leo calling, Carl became much more alert. It was highly unusual for Leo to call him at this hour. He assumed something bad had happened. Leo spoke slowly. Uncle, you know the place in Riverbend called Prosperity Garments, right? Carl paused for a second. I do. Why? Is that the one Richard Chien bought out? Back in June, Richard Chien had acquired a batch of factories in Riverbend to qualify for a partnership with a foreign company. He'd even tried to muscle in on Carl's business. If it weren't for Leo, his uncle would have been bankrupt by now. Of course, Carl knew who Richard Chien was. The name made him sit bolt upright in bed. What are you planning? Leo, you and Chloe are on good terms. There's no need to drag this up again. Carl thought Leo was trying to get revenge for him and immediately tried to talk him out of it. Leo realized his uncle had the wrong idea. He quickly explained Wendy's situation and added, Mr. Jiang and Richard Chien have had a complete falling out, so you don't need to worry about any blowback. Hearing this, Carl finally relaxed. Still, he felt the need to warn his nephew. Richard Chien is the type who will do anything to get what he wants. It's best not to get involved with him if you can avoid it. A warning was a warning, but he did know something about the situation Leo described. I heard about that incident, he told Leo. It caused a huge stir in our industry. But the word from their side is that it was caused by employee error. I think they're even holding the employee liable for damages. Leo glanced at Wendy. No wonder she'd ended up in a place like this. The last time he saw her at the coffee shop, her face was full of sunshine. Now, it was clouded with despair. Okay, I get it, Leo said. I'm not in Riverbend. If you can, just help her out a bit. Carl was silent for a moment. He knew Leo had his own reasons for doing things. He finally agreed. All right, I'll make some arrangements tomorrow. Leo hadn't tried to hide the call from Wendy or the others. After hanging up, he told her directly, I'll have someone look into it tomorrow. It should be fine. Don't worry. Wendy was just clutching at straws. She and Leo were barely acquaintances. It was only because she ran into him today that she'd even thought to ask. She hadn't expected him to actually respond, let alone agree so readily. Thank you. What Leo didn't tell her was that this was a mutually beneficial arrangement. Gabby and Ing were still singing. Assuming Wendy was a friend of Leo's, they saw she was upset and pulled her over to join them. Spike, Hank, and Kyle were playing dice and drinking, a rowdy, cheerful mess. Leo listened for a bit before he couldn't take their amateurish playing anymore. Everyone was doing their own thing, but it was a happy kind of chaos. But just as the party hit its peak, the door to the room was pushed open again. A group of 4 or 5 men stormed in, looking aggressive. The leader had a full sleeve tattoo. He did not look friendly. All right, who's in charge here? Everyone could see they weren't here to make friends. Spike was the first one on his feet. He never backed down from a fight. You got a problem? As they faced off, the man who had been chasing Wendy pointed at Leo. Dragon, that's him. He's the one who insisted on sticking his nose in it for that girl. Wendy was terrified, trembling so hard she could barely speak. Just as she mustered the courage to stand up and say this had nothing to do with Leo and his friends, Spike smashed a beer bottle on the table. You point at him again, I dare you. You can't lose when it comes to intimidation. The guy called Dragon was a tough customer himself and looked ready to throw down. But just then, the karaoke bar's security guards rushed in, quickly separating the two groups. Let's all calm down, take it easy. Manager Tao, I come to your place to have a good time, not to get hassled. Dragon clearly knew the man in charge. You get out of the way, and I'll pretend this has nothing to do with you. Manager Tao forced a smile, apologizing profusely. My deepest apologies. How about we all sit down and talk this out? I'll send over a case of drinks on the house. Dragon was not pleased. He sneered, fine. Out of respect for you, I can let this slide. But those 3 girls, they're coming with me. Our big boss is here. Manager Tao looked over at Gabby, Ing, and Wendy. In the dim light, it was hard to see clearly, but he could tell they weren't the usual nightclub crowd. Still, he didn't press the issue. He'd wait to see what Leo's group would do. If they compromised, great. If not, they could take it outside. He'd seen this kind of thing a million times. There was no way Spike would accept those terms. He grabbed another beer bottle, shattered it on the edge of the table, and pointed the jagged end at Dragon. Go with you? Sure, I'll go with you. After his threat, he didn't forget to add, Leo, you guys get out of here first. I got this. Leo shook his head. What a mess. He slowly stood up. Dragon's crew realized Leo was the one calling the shots. He watched Leo approach, a cold smirk on his face. Who's your dragon? You think you can call me that? Leo didn't say anything, but Spike roared, if you can't talk respectfully, then don't talk at all. A crowd was gathering outside the room, mostly gawkers. Some of them recognized Dragon and started whispering. Those guys look young. Are some of them students? What were they thinking, messing with Dragon? Don't they know he works for Mr. Wu? The Hamlin group might be gone, and Mr. Wu might be looking for a new backer, but he's not someone just anyone can push around. The last guy who crossed him is still in the hospital. Dragon was something of a local celebrity, famous for all the wrong reasons. If it had been anyone else, they might have backed down after hearing the gossip. But he was dealing with Spike and his crew. Move it, move it. A moment later, 2 more men pushed through the crowd. They were carrying briefcases, wearing thick gold chains, and one had a large jade ring on his thumb. They saw the standoff and didn't hesitate, walking straight up to Hank. Mister, you said $50 a head. Don't go back on your word. Leo was confused. Who are these guys? Hank gave a sheepish smile. They're foremen, from a construction site nearby. Leo understood. The foreman turned back to Hank. Mister, we've only got about 60 guys here right now. You need more? I told them what you said, $50 cash, medical bills fully covered, and $100 a day if you end up in the hospital. Leo couldn't help but twitch an eyebrow at that. Damn, that's ruthless. In this day and age, it seemed the construction crews were the real brutes. You could kill yourself working all day for a few dozen bucks. The promise of $100 a day just for being laid up in a hospital. That was a powerful motivator. Dragon didn't leave. He was holding onto a sliver of hope that they were bluffing. 60 guys. Was it really that easy to summon a crew? He was about to call their bluff when another man walked in. He spotted Leo, froze for a second, then marched over to Dragon and, without a word, slapped him across the face. The crack was loud and sharp. The force of it sent the 6-foot-tall Dragon stumbling to the floor. And Mr. Wu, Dragon, who had just been slapped, didn't dare show a hint of anger. He looked up at Mr. Wu timidly, all his earlier arrogance gone. Apologized to Mr. White now. Mr. Wu roared. Dragon was stunned. The onlookers were stunned. They all couldn't help but wonder, who the hell is this Mr. White? Dragon was obedient, though. He realized he'd messed with someone he couldn't afford. I'm sorry, Mr. White, I was wrong. Whatever you want to do to me is fine. Spike lowered the broken bottle. The tension in the room finally eased. Leo had no intention of stooping to his level. He just said, I'm not the one you should be apologizing to. Hearing this, Mr. Wu kicked Dragon. Dragon staggered, then bowed deeply to Wendy, Gabby, and the others in the room. I'm sorry. Useless piece of trash, Mr. Wu cursed, then took a glass from someone next to him and walked over to Leo. Mr. White, what happened tonight was my fault. My apologies. I'll drink this one. Mr. Wu drained a wine glass in one go. Even from a distance, Leo could smell the strong scent of hard liquor. That was some high-proof stuff. You can hold your liquor, Mr. Wu. After finishing his drink, Mr. Wu wiped his mouth. He must have drunk it too fast because he swayed, nearly falling over. Luckily, the person next to him caught him just in time. Mr. White, would you honor me by letting me join you for a moment? Mr. Wu's attitude was incredibly deferential, which only made those who knew him more curious about Leo's identity. Leo also knew you don't hit a smiling face. He nodded in agreement. You guys head back first. I'm going to have a couple of drinks with Mr. White. This Mr. Wu was a sharp one. He said he'd be alone, and he meant it. After sitting down on the sofa, he looked at Leo, his face radiating sycophantic warmth. Mr. White, you may not know me, but I have admired you for a long, long time. Oh, Leo raised an eyebrow. How we met? Mr. Wu shook his head repeatedly. No, I've seen you, but you haven't seen me. On the day Mr. Chien first arrived, I saw you from a distance. There was something else Mr. Wu didn't say. Richard Chien had hosted 2 tables that day. One was for Leo's group. The other was for Carter Zhao's crew. Mr. Wu had been one of them, just not important enough to be at the main table. That was one of the reasons he was being so humble. Carter Zhao had lost big trying to mess with Rush Sportswear. Mr. Wu had heard whispers that even Carter Zhao said Leo had powerful backing. At first, he didn't think much of it, but then Carter Zhao tried to crush him, and a short time later, the Hamlin group collapsed. Mr. Wu considered himself somewhat successful, but he was nothing compared to Carter Zhao. If Carter couldn't touch Leo, what chance did he have? Besides, he was in trouble himself. He was already looking for help. If he could get on Leo's good side, that would be even better. Leo knew he hadn't come over just to say hello. But if he wasn't talking, Leo wasn't asking. He had Gabby put on a song for him, Dusk by Steve Cho. She tactfully queued it up. Leo took the microphone and started singing. His voice wasn't amazing, but Mr. Wu applauded enthusiastically. As expected of Mr. White, even your singing is superb. Truly a remarkable young talent. Leo couldn't stand it. He passed the mic to the next person and poured a drink for both himself and Mr. Wu. Mr. Wu picked up his glass with both hands. After draining it in one gulp, he finally saw his chance. Mr. White, he began, I don't suppose you have any interest in entertainment venue business. Leo finished his own drink. Mr. Wu's question piqued his interest. What do you mean? Mr. Wu was miserable. In his line of work, connections were everything. Before, he had the Hamlin Group's name to back him up. Even though he had to give them a significant cut of the profits every month, the business was stable. But now, the Hamlin Group gone just like that. For him, without that backing, his business was half dead. That's why he was sucking up to Leo. If he weren't desperate, who would want to bow and scrape before a kid half his age? Seeing that Leo was interested, Mr. Wu brightened. It's like this. I own a high-end spa and a nightclub. I've been thinking about selling off some of the shares. Previously, Mr. Wu had only given the Hamlin Group profit-sharing stock. So even with Hamlin gone, his 2 businesses weren't directly affected. At first, he planned to find a new backer using the same method. But when faced with Leo, he changed his mind on the spot. Leo rubbed his chin and looked at Mr. Wu. Are they legit, Mr. Wu? Mr. Wu's heart skipped a beat. The inevitable question. But he answered truthfully. Legit. I only run legitimate businesses. After saying this, he expected Leo to be disappointed. After all, in this industry, legit meant not profitable. But to his surprise, Leo looked relieved. As long as they're legit. Mr. Wu then added, they're very legit, but you know some things are hard to control. Leo knew the deal. Money talks. With enough cash and sweet talking, there was hardly anyone who wouldn't be tempted, especially in a gray area industry like this. As long as it doesn't happen on the premises. Mr. Wu quickly promised, I strictly forbid that. Leo didn't say any more. He called out to Kyle. The market is going to take a while to open. In the meantime, why don't you go learn the ropes with Mr. Wu? Kyle had no objections. He was just happy that Leo was giving him something to do. And today, his perception of Leo had been completely reset. The guy was on another level. A big shot like Mr. Wu had to treat him with such reverence. He quickly agreed. Sure thing, Leo. Mr. Wu, I'll be in your care. Mr. Wu let out a breath of relief. Even though they hadn't discussed how many shares or for how much, the fact that Leo had agreed was a good sign. But Leo didn't keep him waiting long. How many shares you sell is up to you. And don't worry about the price, I won't lowball you. To be honest, Leo wasn't that interested in this industry. He wasn't familiar with it, and it was prone to trouble. He only agreed for his own strategic reasons. Plus, Kyle had nothing to do right now. This would be a good learning experience for him. After all, he'd been a huge help to Leo. Leo, thank you. After they'd had enough to drink and left the karaoke bar, Wendy came up to thank him. Leo was a bit dizzy from the alcohol. He shook his head and said it was nothing. Someone will contact you tomorrow. You should head home. Spike and the others were standing nearby, unsure of the relationship between the two and deliberately keeping their distance. When the car Hank had arranged pulled up, Spike called out to Leo. Leo, are you coming with us? Or do you have other plans? Leo stubbed out his cigarette impatiently. Plans? What plans? I have stuff to do in the morning. I'll just find a hotel nearby. You guys do whatever. Spike grinned, then turned and got in the car. Kyle, Gabby, and the others left with him. Hank said his goodbyes too. Soon, only Leo and Winnie were left standing on the street. Aren't you leaving? Leo asked. Winnie was fidgeting with her fingers, lost in thought. She kept her head down, looking like she wanted to say something but couldn't. Leo didn't give her the chance to hesitate. I'm heading out. You should grab a cab and go home. With that, he started walking toward the hotel where Sophia and Kat were staying. It wasn't far, just a 10-minute walk, which would be good for sobering up. The winter night was especially cold, but at least it didn't snow in the south. A little cold was bearable. Watching Leo's retreating back, Wendy sighed for some reason, then hailed a passing taxi. By the time he got to the hotel, Leo had sobered up considerably. He thought about saving some money and crashing with Sophia for the night, a favor to her, really. But a glance at the time showed it was already 2 or 3 in the morning. He decided against it and got his own room. The moment he pushed the door open, a shower of small, sleazy calling cards that had been stuffed in the crack rained down on the floor. He ignored them and went straight to the bathroom. After washing up, he collapsed onto the bed and was out like a light. He felt like he'd only been asleep for a few minutes when his phone rang. The default Nokia ringtone was piercing. Without opening his eyes, Leo fumbled for the phone and instinctively answered. Leo. Hearing Chloe's cheerful voice, Leo couldn't figure out what she was so happy about. To what do I owe the pleasure, Your Highness? Hearing his groggy voice, Chloe quickly asked, You're not up yet? What were you doing last night? Barbecue, singing, drinking. After he finished, Chloe asked cautiously, And that's all, right? Leo thought for a moment. Well, if I wanted to, I probably could have brought a cute girl back to warm the bed. You jerk, you can't. Chloe blurted out, her voice sharp. You really can't. The jealousy was so thick you could smell it through the phone. But I didn't, did I? After all, I've got you, my adorable little pain in the ass. If anyone's warming my bed, it should be you, right? Chloe felt like she should be angry, but for some reason, she couldn't muster it. In fact, a strange, sweet feeling bloomed in her chest. Still, she feigned annoyance. Oh, so you just want me to warm your bed? Leo's tone grew impatient. Are you going to or not? I am. Chloe answered, then quickly changed the subject. Are you on campus? I'll come find you. Is something wrong? Leo forced himself to sit up, his head throbbing. He took the phone with him into the bathroom. If Chloe had an emergency, he'd have to go back. But Chloe said slowly, It's not really an emergency. I just want to take you somewhere. Hearing that, Leo put down his toothbrush and poured the water he'd just collected back into the sink. He walked back to the bed and flopped down. I'm going back to sleep. We'll talk later. He was about to hang up when Chloe asked, Just tell me if you're at the university or somewhere else. If you're not on campus, I'll come to you. Without thinking, Leo told her the name and address of the hotel. After hanging up, he felt that wasn't enough. He texted her the room number. With that done, he settled in for a blissful second round of sleep. Maybe when he woke up, his bed warmer would have arrived. But just as he lay down, he remembered something. He sat up again, went to the door, and swept all of last night's little cards into the trash can. Then he placed the trash can in a very conspicuous spot, ensuring anyone who entered would see it. Worried about being disturbed again, he made another call, this time to Sophia. She and Kat were already out shopping. When she answered, she asked if he wanted to join them, but Leo refused without a second thought. Sophia was about to say something else when Kat snatched the phone. Leo, when are you going to be free today? What's the plan for that thing? She hadn't come all this way just to shop with Sophia. Leo had told her he'd help her acquire that company at a low price, But the auction was just around the corner, and he hadn't made a move. It was making her anxious. If this acquisition succeeded, it could save her decades of work. Hearing her roar, Leo held the phone far from his ear. He was starting to understand why a woman in her 30s was still single. That voice could scare off any potential partner. "Relax, Kat," he said. "I've got some people coming for dinner tonight. We'll discuss it in detail then." Kat was finally satisfied. Her voice softened. "Well, thank you, boss." After the Hanlon group collapsed, Mr. Ho had contacted Leo. He didn't get involved in the aftermath, just gave Leo a few phone numbers and said the rest would be handled. Leo, of course, wasn't greedy. He chose 3 businesses, each valued around $1 million, give or take. No need to cause trouble for people. The ones he'd picked were all in hot sectors, guaranteed moneymakers. One of them was the media company Kat had her eye on. Once it went to auction, it would surely attract a bidding war. Just having the right of first refusal was something to be grateful for. After the call, Leo's sleepiness had faded. Besides, he knew if he went back to sleep now, he'd just be woken up soon anyway. Chloe would be here in half an hour. Might as well wait. Sleeping with someone else is much nicer than sleeping alone, he told himself. While waiting, Leo pulled open the curtains. The sun was shining brightly outside. A perfect day for sleeping. Chloe had initially planned to wait a while before going to find Leo to let him get enough sleep. But the moment she heard he was at a hotel, a sudden anxiety seized her. She couldn't be bothered with anything else. She jumped in her Land Rover and sped over. In just about 20 minutes, she was standing outside his room. Without hesitating, she knocked. The door swung open to reveal Leo, wrapped in nothing but a towel, his chest bare. Before she could react, he pulled her inside. "Hey!" She was thrown onto the bed, and it took a moment for her to get her bearings. "What are you doing?" Leo didn't waste any time. He slipped under the covers. "Didn't sleep well last night, and then you woke me up this morning." "I'm catching up now." He noticed Chloe was just staring at him, motionless. He prompted her, "Don't you get it? I already warmed the bed up for you." Chloe was a little stunned, unsure of what to say. Just then, Leo grinned mischievously. "Need some help?" Chloe grabbed her car keys from her pocket and tossed them at him. "Perv." But despite her words, she took off her jacket and slid into the bed next to him. Leo hugged her, content, ready to drift off to sleep. But the moment she got in, she started fidgeting, pinching his ear, and whispering right next to it, her tone accusatory. "Jerk, were you really alone last night?" Leo felt a tickle in his ear, a tingling sensation that was hard to describe. "Who else would be here? You think I brought someone else to sleep with?" Chloe pouted and bit his earlobe gently. "Then what about those? In the trash can? You're telling me you saw those and didn't have any ideas." Leo turned and pulled her into a proper hug. Chloe struggled for a moment before giving up. "I had ideas," he admitted. Seeing her glaring at him, he quickly added, "That's why I called you over so early this morning. So, should we stop wasting time?" His hands started to roam as he spoke. Chloe could feel it and blushed, but she didn't struggle. She just stared at him, her eyes wide and unblinking. Her gaze made him pause. "What's wrong?" Chloe turned her head away as if she were angry. After a moment, she said sullenly, "You just want to take advantage of me. You only think of me when you want something like this. Leo was baffled. Where did that come from? Seeing him fall silent, Chloe seemed even angrier. "See? You won't even try to coax me anymore. You can't even be bothered to humor me." Leo was about to explain when he turned her to face him and saw the playful glint in her eyes. He instantly understood. "Chloe, you've gone bad." She pouted haughtily. "I don't care. Even if I'm bad, you still have to like me." Leo's voice softened. He stroked her hair. "I do. Of course I do." Chloe was satisfied with his answer, but she still said, "If you like me, you have to be responsible for me." Leo nodded repeatedly. Uh-huh. I know you'll be responsible for me." Seeing his shameless act, Chloe pinched his cheek. "I mean, you have to be responsible for me. We've slept in the same bed." Leo blinked, deliberately teasing her. "We slept together, but didn't do anything. Is that really necessary?" Chloe shot him a glare. "So, you want to do something?" Leo's gaze drifted downward. He casually pulled the covers down a little. Today, Chloe was wearing a V-neck shirt, revealing a patch of pale, smooth skin. Unfortunately, there was no cleavage in sight. When she felt his eyes on her, Chloe didn't flinch. It was as if she was used to it. She even leaned forward slightly. "Do you like it?" He thought she expected him to say yes. But instead, he just closed his eyes and turned away. "There's nothing there. What's to like?" "Sleep. Let's just sleep." Chloe felt a surge of anger. She leaned over and bit his shoulder. "You heartless jerk." It was clear she was nervous too. For a girl to go this far for him was a huge step, and all she got was mocked. A little teasing was good for a relationship. Leo knew that. He turned back, leaned in, and kissed her red lips. After 2 or 3 minutes, when he felt her running out of breath, he pulled away. Before she could speak, he said, "I like it. Even if there's nothing there, I like it. And with me around, eventually there will be." Chloe felt her whole body go limp. She tried to stop his hand, but she had no strength. All she could do was let him have his way. Leo took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. 19. Just 1 more year. Chloe, of course, had no idea what he was thinking. When he didn't make any further moves, she let out a sigh of relief. "Jerk. Later. Will you go somewhere with me?" Leo knew his nap was officially over. He realized it had been a while since he and Chloe had just gone out. He nodded. "Where to?" Chloe's expression turned mysterious. "You'll see when we get there. Now get up." Leo rolled his eyes and spread arms and legs out, making a starfish on the bed. He waited a moment, but Chloe didn't move. He opened his eyes. With her gaze, he pointed to his own face. "Don't you get it?" Chloe giggled, leaned over, and gave him a soft peck on the cheek. Her eyes curved into crescents. "Get up, my dearest jerk." Chloe was already beautiful. When she smiled, she was even more so. If he could wake up to this every day, Leo thought life would be pretty good. Washing his face and brushing his teeth took only a few minutes. Chloe seemed incredibly excited today, chattering nonstop as he got ready. She kept talking the whole time they were in the car. At first, Leo thought she was taking him to some scenic tourist spot, but he soon realized the route was wrong. They were heading back toward the university. Chloe drove to the side of a new market at Mill District. With construction nearly complete, the parking lot was mostly finished. The security guard at the gate seemed to recognize her Land Rover and opened the gate immediately. Finally, she parked next to the old, abandoned factory. "What are we doing here?" Leo was confused. "You gave me a gift here once," Chloe said, turning to him. "That's right. So I'm giving you one too," Chloe said, getting out of the car. Leo followed her. "All right, let's see if I like it," Chloe said, taking his hand and leading him toward the factory. Just like last time, the doorway was pitch black. But as Chloe flipped a switch, the interior instantly lit up. Leo froze. Chloe suddenly spoke from beside him. "Leo, it's been so long since I've seen you play basketball. You used to teach me." The vast factory had been transformed into an indoor sports facility. The space was divided into sections, and one of them was a full-size basketball court. Leo didn't know what to feel. After a long moment, he muttered, "The first thing I'm doing is firing Spike and Hank." There was no way this could have been done without those two knowing. Just then, someone else walked out from the side, tossing a basketball to him. "What are you spacing out for? Weren't you out shopping with Kat?" Sophia just shrugged, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. It's not like she doesn't have legs. Basketball. Leo hadn't touched one since he was reborn. In his past life, his company had often organized basketball games. He could easily drop 30 or 40 points without breaking a sweat. It wasn't that he was that good. It was just that if he missed a shot, no one dared to grab the rebound. And even if they did, the ball would immediately find its way back into his hands. Holding a basketball again, Leo felt a wave of nostalgia. But more than the surprise of the gift, he was stunned by when they had prepared it. Chloe seemed to read his mind and laughed. "It took about 2 weeks. Do you like it?" Leo didn't answer. He just bounced the ball a couple of times, stood behind a 3-point line, and shot with perfect form. The angle was a little off, but that didn't matter. Sophia retrieved the ball and passed it back to him. Having someone rebound for you when you're shooting around. It felt amazing, though it was the kind of thing you could only get away with on an indoor court. Try that outside, and you were likely to get punched. The second shot went in. Chloe was more excited than Leo was, acting like sinking one basket was some incredible feat. Sophia was much calmer by comparison, but you could tell she was happy too. For her, just being here with Leo was enough to make her happy. Playing alone for a while got old, even with rebounders. "Leo, once the market opens, how about we host a basketball tournament?" Sophia suggested from the long bench on the sideline where Leo had just put on his jacket. "Just like you did with the gaming tournament at the lounge. It'll draw a crowd and get the market up and running faster." Leo had always intended to convert this factory into an indoor sports complex. He just kept putting it off. He never expected to come back and find it already done, presented to him as a surprise. He was happy, but he hoped he wouldn't get too many more surprises like this. "You guys handle it," he said. "By the way, have you figured out? What kind of business do you think is suitable for Holly?" Chloe was looking through the photos on her phone, all of them of Leo. The moment she heard Hollywind's name, her head snapped up. She couldn't hide the wariness in her eyes. She knew of Holly, but they weren't close. Sophia noticed and covered her mouth with a laugh. "It's just a shell company anyway. It doesn't matter what it does. I talked to her last night." She doesn't have any ideas of her own, which makes it tough. Even without Sophia saying it, Leo could have guessed. Her upbringing meant she would never dare to dream of starting a business. She simply couldn't afford to fail. She knew better than anyone that success was a fluke. Failure was the norm. And she didn't have the courage to face that failure. No amount of inspirational pop songs could give her that courage, and neither could Leo. He had to rely on Sophia. I'll set aside a prime spot for you in the market. You can start with a small street-side shop and build from there. Something like a nail or tattoo studio. Once you have a steady client base, you can start distributing makeup products. I'll arrange everything. Sophia thought for a moment and nodded. Okay, I'll give it a try. After they finished, Chloe couldn't hold back any longer. Leo, what are your intentions with Hollywood? Hearing her timid tone, Leo couldn't resist reaching out and pinching her cheek. Nothing. I just think her family situation is complicated, and I want to help if I can. Of course, you can just assume I'm trying to be a good person. Chloe didn't buy it, of course, but she also felt that Leo wouldn't lie to her about something like this. A woman's intuition is usually sharp. When Leo mentioned Holly's name, there was no change in his expression. Or maybe she was just telling herself that to feel better. Either way, Chloe chose to believe him. The gym was great, but you couldn't stay there all day. After they left, Leo had intended to treat them to lunch, but after wandering around, they couldn't find a suitable place. Of course, it was also possible that neither of them had any intention of eating out. Why don't we go back and cook? The furniture and appliances had all been installed in his new place. It just needed to air out for the formaldehyde to dissipate, and then he could move in. That would take a while, but it didn't stop them from going over for a meal now and then. Leo hadn't been there in a while and wanted to check on it. For the next 3+ years, this would be his base. As for room 718, he'd leave that for Shane and the guys to mess around in. If he stayed with them too long, he was worried he'd start to smell like a bachelor too. Achoo. Back in room 718, Shane, still in bed, suddenly sneezed. Mark, were you just talking smack about me? Mark hadn't gotten up either. In this weather, getting out of bed required courage. Clearly, neither of them had any. The new house was just a 10-minute walk from the university town. Before they even went in, Leo noticed Sophia and Chloe acting suspiciously, but he didn't think much of it. But when he opened the door, he froze. The living room was enormous. Originally, the 3 apartments had been separate. Even with the connecting doors open, they were usually kept closed. But now, the wall between them was completely gone. The 3 units had been combined into one massive space. It looked so much bigger now. The other layouts were unchanged, but there were some subtle modifications. On the door to Leo's room was a cartoon dog sticker. On the other side, on the door to their shared space, was a sign that read Fairy Abode. Leo thought they were kind of cute, but only a little. Hey, you're the dogs. Sophia giggled, covering her mouth. Chloe pushed him toward the kitchen. I'm hungry. Go cook, go cook. Considering the surprise they'd given him today, Leo decided to let it slide for now. This was something. The co-living situation he'd wanted had arrived so quickly. But he was used to cooking for 1, maybe 2. Now he had to cook for 3. It was an adjustment, but one he'd have to get used to. After lunch, Chloe had a class to get to and left first. Before she did, she washed all the dishes. The moment she was gone, Sophia got up from her chair, came up behind Leo, and started gently massaging his shoulders. Leo closed his eyes, enjoying it. As she kneaded his shoulders, Sophia leaned in close to his ear. Do you like days like this? Leo turned to look at her. Did she even need to ask? Sophia smiled. I like them too. I just don't know how long I'll like them for. What if one day I'm not this foolish anymore, and I stop liking it? What then? Leo noticed a strange note in her voice. He gently took her hands from his shoulders. If you stop liking it, then we'll find a different life. Maybe move to the countryside, get 2 dogs, 2 cats. Spend our days gardening and fishing. Leo knew that was the kind of life Sophia truly wanted. She genuinely preferred the countryside to the city. The image he painted was tempting, but she still asked, why does it have to be 2 of everything? Leo answered, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Because I'm only planning on keeping 2. Sophia was smart. She instantly understood the implication. She couldn't quite place the feeling in her heart. So she just pinched his ear to vent her frustration. You jerk. You're the one who's counted by the each. Leo didn't think it mattered. At times like this, whatever Sophia said went. He slowly stood up and wrapped his arms around her. You're talking so much because you're thinking about the future, aren't you? He whispered. No matter how far into the future we go, you'll always be Sophia. My Sophia. The Sophia I'll never, ever lose. Sophia was different from Chloe. She was stubborn. Once she made up her mind about something, that was it. No matter how many people told her no, if she believed it, then it was right. Her only fear was that one day, Leo would suddenly stop liking this. There's no such thing as being forever 18, but there are always new 18-year-olds. As confident as Sophia was, she wasn't so confident when it came to Leo. When she asked what would happen if one day she stopped liking this, she wasn't just talking about herself, but about him too. What if one day, Leo suddenly stopped liking her? Fortunately, Leo's answer was more than satisfying. All right, we should get going, he said. Kat is still out shopping by herself. I told her I'd meet her this afternoon. Leo feigned confusion. Kat who? Who cares about her? Seeing his dead serious expression as he spouted nonsense, Sophia burst out laughing with a loud pfft. She nodded along. Exactly. Who cares about her? Where are we going to go play? How about the arcade? Leo thought about it and suggested, all right, sure. The arcades in the city had mostly been replaced by internet cafes, but Spike knew the scene well and found a place for them. Seeing as he was still useful, Leo decided to temporarily forgive him and Hank for conspiring with Chloe to turn the factory into a gym behind his back. The arcade held a special meaning for Sophia. If she hadn't worked up the courage to ask Leo to go with her that day, who knows what would have happened. It was the familiar sound of Metal Slug. But this time, Sophia seemed to be much worse at it. She was burning through quarters just as fast as Leo. At first, he didn't notice, but the further they got, the more he felt something was off. Every time he died, she would immediately get herself killed too. He finally called her out on it. What are you doing, pulling a Romeo and Juliet here? Sophia's fingers flew across the buttons, her lips pursed. You figured it out. So, you'd better take care of yourself. Leo fell silent. He felt like he was being threatened, but it was a sweet kind of threat. They were having a blast when Kat, who must have gotten tired of waiting, finally broke down and called Sophia. Where are you? When are you coming? Sophia placed her phone on the game console and put on speaker. What did you say? It's too loud in here. I can't hear you. Play for a little longer. I'll be there soon. Without giving Kat a chance to reply, she hung up. Let's keep going. Leo glanced at her. You're not going to blow me off like that in the future, are you? He expected her to say, you're different from her. But instead, she just gave him a sly smile. That depends on your performance, darling. She put extra emphasis on the last word. Then, as if remembering something, she squinted at him, her eyes full of gossip. By the way, has Chloe ever called you darling? Leo blinked, his expression righteous. No. Sophia clearly didn't believe him. Now, big brother. You shouldn't lie. Leo felt like Sophia was a siren. With just a word or a gesture, she could make his heart race. I'm a puppy if I'm lying. Sophia rolled her eyes and let it go. Sometimes Leo really was a dog. They spent most of the afternoon at the arcade. Finally, Sophia was tired out. As they left, she held out her hand to Leo. My wrist hurts. Leo gently rubbed it for her. But then she added, and my hand is cold. As she spoke, she slipped her hand into his coat pocket. After a few more steps, she turned to him with a serious expression. Big brother, Kat must be bored shopping all by herself. We should go find her. She remembered Leo had said he arranged a dinner for Kat's business tonight. She planned to drag him straight there. Watching her impish expression, Leo sighed. So you finally remembered your dear sister Kat? Well, she's my sister. Come on. Kat was here alone this time. Her team was still preparing the bid documents and wouldn't arrive until tomorrow. She thought she wouldn't be lonely with Sophia here, but it was as if Sophia had completely forgotten about her. After shopping by herself for most of the day, she finally got a call as evening approached. My dear young lady, when are you getting here? Give me an address. We're on our way. Kat didn't quite believe Sophia's on our way, but she found a coffee shop to sit in and sent the address. When Sophia saw it was a coffee shop, she replied with another text. 1 Americano, 1 latte. The Americano was for her, the latte for Leo. She remembered perfectly. I knew you'd run off to find him. Seeing Sophia and Leo arrive together, Kat couldn't help but grumble. By the way, where were you two this afternoon? The library, Sophia said flatly as she sat down. She delivered the lie so smoothly, it was almost believable. Kat was suspicious. Is the library that loud? Sophia took a sip of her coffee, then handed it to Leo. She took his and took a sip from it, completely unconcerned that he'd just been drinking from it. Kat felt like the girl was a lost cause. She said exasperatedly, the library isn't that loud, which means you're lying to me and have no intention of telling me the truth. Sophia snapped her fingers. Bingo! Kat knew she wasn't going to get a straight answer out of Sophia. She turned her attention to Leo. Mr. White, what about the business you arranged? Leo had been playing on his phone since he sat down. Sophia and Kat started bickering the moment they saw each other. He was used to it. The more they fought, the closer they seemed to get. Hearing Kat call his name, he finally looked up. We'll have dinner together later. You'll find out then. Kat looked at him warily. Dinner? With who? She'd been to plenty of similar dinners. They were all about schmoozing and making connections. And when you're making connections, you usually have to give something up. If it weren't Leo, she would have been getting up to leave right about now. Seeing the change in her expression, Leo guessed what she was thinking and quickly explained, Kat, don't overthink it. The hard work is already done. We just need to go, have a meal, and talk about what comes next. Perhaps it was her trust in Leo, but Kat hadn't been seriously worried. His explanation put her completely at ease. All right then. Sophia knew why Kat was here. While they were discussing business, she sat quietly, sipping her coffee. When they finished, she leaned over to Leo. Are you going back to Riverbend for New Year's? New Year's was approaching, and the university was about to go on winter break. Both Leo and Sophia had only been back home once during the fall break. Even though the two cities weren't far apart, the travel still took time. Plus, Leo knew he'd get an earful the moment he walked in the door, so he wasn't eager to invite that trouble. But he had to go back for the holiday. Missing his parents was one thing. The other was that the Cheryl's brand had matured over the past few months. The production base in Oak Creek could no longer meet market demand. They needed to expand. Kevin Liu had contacted him about it several times, but Leo had always brushed him off, claiming he had no time. Leo turned to look at Sophia, then dropped a bombshell. I'm going back, and you're coming with me to meet my parents. Not just Sophia, but even Kat was stunned. She spat out the coffee she'd just sipped. Seeing them staring at her, she quickly grabbed a napkin and wiped her mouth. Don't mind me, carry on. As she spoke, her mind started racing. Are things moving this fast? Meeting the parents already? Do his parents know about the other girl? Sophia didn't care what Kat was thinking. She was staring straight at Leo, her bright eyes seeming to see right through him. You want to use me as a shield, don't you? Leo blinked, a flicker of embarrassment in his eyes. But it was gone in an instant. He denied it vehemently. Of course not. Do I look like that kind of person? I'm not. You don't look like it, Sophia said seriously. You are. Since starting university, Leo had rarely called Helen. He'd gotten plenty of grief for it. Sophia knew this all too well. Leo turned away, refusing to look at her. Smart women end up alone, you know. Sophia shot him a cold look. Good thing you're not a man, then. Ahem. Kat couldn't take it anymore. She cleared her throat loudly, a reminder that she was still there. Sophia, do you want me to just kill myself now to get out of your way? Sophia answered calmly, let him do it. I don't have the heart. After a bit more joking around, it was time. Leo took a call. When he hung up, he stood and looked at Kat. Kat, they're here. Shall we go? Kat was very curious about this dinner Leo had arranged. She wanted to know what trick he had up his sleeve to let her pick up such a bargain. The restaurant Leo had chosen was nearby. They arrived in no time. A waiter led them to a private room where several people were already seated. When they saw Leo enter, they quickly stood up, smiling obsequiously. Mr. White, you're here. We were just waiting for you. Every person in this room was around David White's age, but when they addressed Leo, they still used the honorific. Sometimes, titles have nothing to do with age. Gentlemen, you're too kind. Leo smiled and nodded. When Kat walked in, the men were taken aback. Ms. He. One of them recognized Kat. Kat was also surprised. She knew the man who had called her name. He was the former VP of Hamlin Media. The last time she saw him, he had been arrogant and full of himself. Now, just a few days later, he looked visibly haggard. Mr. Zhang, what a coincidence. You're here too. The man, Mr. Zhang, had a large belly. He smiled sheepishly. Well, Mr. White arranged it. I just came to broaden my horizons, you know. Kat could see their reverence for Leo, and her surprise grew. Leo, what on earth has happened to you in this short time? The first time she met him, he was just starting Rush Sportswear. To be honest, if it weren't for Sophia, she would never have partnered with such an unknown, unheard of brand. Even after Rush got Ethan Zhang's backing and exploded to become one of the country's top sportswear brands, Kat hadn't paid much attention. She just thought Leo got lucky. But now, this was completely different. She'd heard Sophia mention Leo's business ventures in passing. It was much, much more than just Rush. Kat, what are you spacing out for? Let's go. As Kat was lost in thought, Sophia tugged on her arm from behind. She snapped back to reality, took a deep look at Leo, who was now deep in conversation with the group of men, and then followed Sophia to her seat. After a few rounds of drinks, Leo spoke. Mr. Zhang, why don't you tell us about the company's current situation? Mr. Zhang was the type who flushed when he drank. His face was beet red, but his speech was clear, with no sign of drunkenness. Hearing Leo's question, He sighed with a sense of loss. Our company didn't have any irregularities, so our operations haven't been significantly affected. It's just that some of our artists, fearing they'd be implicated, were willing to breach their contracts just to get out. Ms. He should know, a company like ours relies entirely on its talent. Without artists, the company can't survive. Not to mention, several of our brand partners have publicly announced they're pulling their sponsorships. Even without him saying it, Leo knew the gist. Every industry has its hardships. In media, you could weave a simple rumor about a boss harassing an artist, and that alone could be enough to bring a company to its knees. And what Hamlin Media was facing now wasn't just a rumor. Their boss was, in fact, behind bars. Kat, you pretty much know the situation. Anything else you want to ask? As an industry insider, Kat was mainly interested in Hamlin's resources and market share. Their current predicament didn't concern her much. No, all right then. Leo continued, Kat, Mr. Zhang is a good man and very capable. If you do take over, do you think he could continue to handle his current role? Leo had his own agenda. He still had several years of university here. He needed to build up his network and resources in all areas. At the end of the day, Connect enabled further growth. Ability? Undeniably important. But this country had no shortage of capable people. Mr. Zhang's head shot up to look at Leo, then quickly darted to Kat. He had worked at this company for so many years. The thought of leaving was genuinely painful, but he knew his position was precarious. If the company's ownership structure changed drastically, the first thing a new shareholder would do is install their own trusted people in his role. That was just human nature. But now, hearing Leo say this, a spark of hope ignited within him. Working for Kat, that didn't sound so bad. Kat, of course, understood Leo's meaning. She rolled her eyes at him, but didn't shut him down. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But hypothetically, even if we do end up working together, it would depend on whether Mr. Zhang would be willing to stay on. Mr. Zhang nodded vigorously. Willing, of course, I'm willing. It would be my honor to have the opportunity to learn from Ms. Kat just smiled. After a satisfying meal where everything that needed to be said was said, Mr. Zhang and the others, not wanting to impose a second event with Kat and Sophia present, said their goodbyes. As they were leaving, they showered Leo with thanks, even saying that if he ever needed to connect with any A-list, B-list, or C-list celebrities, he should just let them know. Ugh, what kind of person is that? Leo said with disdain after they got in their car. Sophia stood beside him, a half-smile on her face. What kind? You're kind. From the look on your face, just now, you were practically drooling. Leo wiped his mouth. I was just feeling a little sick from the wine. You believe me, right? Sophia smiled sweetly, her dimples showing. Of course I do. Kat had also had a couple of glasses of wine. She wasn't drunk, but she was a little dizzy. Watching the two of them being so happy, she thought that this was actually quite nice. Leo, you trying to connect with him? What's your plan? Leo knew he couldn't hide it from Kat, so he confessed. He must have been a little drunk because he stumbled, nearly falling to the ground. Sophia quickly steadied him. Leo took the opportunity to drape his arm over her shoulder and refused to move it. Then, meeting Kat's disgusted gaze, he said, I just think it's good to have more friends in more places. I looked into him. No major issues. Kat, if you don't think he's a good fit, just replace him. Worst case, I'll bring him into my company. Kat squinted, full of suspicion. Your company? His expertise and resources are all in media. That doesn't really align with your business, does it? Leo must have really been drunk. He started talking nonsense. It doesn't align now, but what if it aligns later? That sentence put Kat instantly on high alert. Leo, are you trying to steal business from your big sister? The shout made Leo let out a drunken hiccup. Sophia quickly patted his back, not forgetting to chide Kat. Kat, why are you yelling so loud? Kat was both anxious and angry. She's not even part of the family yet. Leo spoke again. If it weren't for the fact that you're my sister, I really would compete with you for it. With the advantage of foresight, Leo could have easily scooped up all the breakout musicians and producers of the next few years. But he decided against it. If he did everything, how would anyone else make a living? His intention in snagging Mr. Zhang was simple. The explosion of the new media short video industry in his past life was inseparable from a man with the surname Zhang. Though it would be many years, it was worth the wait. Kat let out a sigh of relief, her expression instantly shifting back to a smile. You should have said so earlier. I was about to call Sophia's dad to come over with a knife. Kat saw Leo staring at her, dumbfounded, and covered her mouth with a laugh. Never mind. You get to live a little longer. Kat, why are you scaring him? Sophia said quickly. Is my dad that scary? Kat didn't answer, just gave Sophia a look. What do you think? Since they had all been drinking, they couldn't drive. Kat got back to the hotel and tried to pull Sophia in with her. She was worried Leo would use the excuse of needing someone to take care of him while drunk to do something strange. But Sophia refused without a second thought. I have to go back to the dorm tonight. I have class early tomorrow. I hope you're really going back to the dorm, Kat said, then gave up and turned, heading for the elevator without looking back. They were all adults. Some things you just have to figure out for yourself. After dropping Kat off, Leo and Sophia took a cab back to campus. It was late. The streets were nearly deserted. Are you okay? Sophia asked, concerned that Leo had had too much to drink. Leo shook his head. I was going to say I wasn't, to trick you into sleeping with me. But then I thought better of it. You should go back to your dorm. Sophia shot him an exasperated look. You're just taking advantage of the fact that I'll believe you no matter what, aren't you? Leo reached out and pinched her cheek. That's not taking advantage. That's liking you. I really, really like you. And it's because I like you that I'm holding back my treasure. Sophia leaned against his chest. I like you too. I like you very, very much. After walking Sophia back to her dorm, Leo went straight to the 24-hour gaming lounge. The women's dorm had a kind RA who was willing to open the door for them 24/7, worried they'd get scammed or worse. The men's dorm, however, was not so lucky. The doors locked at a certain time, and if you weren't back, too bad. The streetlights outside were all off, but the gaming lounge was still brightly lit, buzzing with noise. Leo, can I get you something to drink? A staff member hurried over as soon as Leo sat down at an empty station. Everyone respected their big boss. After all, he paid well and stood up for his employees. A cup of flurrying snow tea, please. You got it. As Leo was getting into a game, Spike came up to him. He leaned down and said in a low voice, Leo, P10.She showed up. But there's something else I think I'd tell you. Leo kept playing, not even turning his head. Go on. The person with P10.She is Julie and John's brother. And Chloe's mother is with them too. Spike, I've been thinking about something, Leo said, pushing his keyboard away and turning to face him. Spike looked at him, confused. If a person suddenly gets a fortune they don't deserve, Leo continued, like they hit the lottery overnight. What do they do next? The question wasn't hard to understand. In fact, Spike knew a few guys just like that. Those cronies of Kyle Yan's were living it up, blowing cash like there was no tomorrow. Kyle himself was a bit more restrained, but even his spending had become extravagant. Spike answered without thinking. They go on a revenge spending spree, and the assets they can't handle eventually find their way back into the market in one form or another, Leo added, giving Spike a long, appraising look. For Spike to come up with a line like that showed he wasn't the same guy anymore. Seeing Leo staring, Spike gave an embarrassed laugh. I've been taking some online business courses. It was in one of the books. Leo felt a surge of pride. Reading is a good thing, he said, praising him. Just make sure you stick with it. Yeah, I will. Back when he was just running the arcade, Spike hadn't had any grand ambitions beyond making sure his family had enough to eat. But after following Leo to the university town, his perspective had shifted. The people he interacted with now were completely different. His clientele had changed from local kids to college students. The people he did business with were no longer small-time operators, but ambitious players like Laura Een and Hank Yu, or even current students like Connor Sun. They were all smart, educated, and driven. For a while, he'd felt insecure, like he wasn't capable enough to stand by Leo's side. What did he have to offer? But Ing, his sister, had comforted him, telling him that out of everyone, Leo probably trusted him the most. That made him feel a little better, but it also lit a fire under him. It was time to start learning. Leo, why the sudden question? Spike asked. Leo sighed. I've been looking into Julie and John's younger brother, Jesse. He's got big dreams, but no skills to back them up. He overestimates himself, has no clear grasp of his own abilities, and is always waiting for some magical big break to fall into his lap. And more importantly, Leo added, his voice low, the guy has zero self-control. Spike mulled it over for a moment, then understood. I know what to do. Then he frowned. But he seems like a nobody, doesn't he? Leo's expression was complicated. He turned back to his computer, fingering over the keyboard again. He was a nobody, but things are different now. P10.She is showing his face so openly. Don't you think there's a problem? Leo's voice turning grim. And more importantly, the people with him. They're all old-timers from the Jiang Corporation. Spike shot to his feet, his eyes wide with disbelief. Are you saying something happened to Mr. Jiang? It was Leo's biggest fear, too. Still, he tried to reassure himself. Probably not. But there might have been some change in the company's shareholding structure. Leo suddenly remembered Ethan's warning to Chloe. don't go back to Riverbend anytime soon. Was he trying to keep her from finding something out? He had to call Ethan, but when he dialed, the call went straight to a "this number is unavailable" message. He tried several more times with the same result. Finally, he gave up. Ethan's private line was never, ever off. After a moment's hesitation, he dialed his assistant, Faye. Thankfully, this one went through. "Leo? It's so late. What's up?" Faye sounded like she'd been asleep, her voice thick and drowsy. Leo cut to the chase. "Do you know where Mr. Jiang is?" "Mr. Jiang?" Faye sounded surprised. "I've been transitioning out of my old role, so I'm not entirely sure. I heard he went overseas." The grogginess in her voice vanished, replaced by sudden alertness. "What's wrong?" Even though Ethan had demoted her, Faye was still grateful to him. He was the one who had given her a real chance. "Can you look into any recent personnel changes and stock adjustments at the Jiang Corporation for me?" Leo asked, "and let me know what you find." Leo knew next to nothing about the inner workings of the company. All his previous dealings had been personally arranged by Ethan. Faye was his only window in. "Okay." Faye agreed immediately, then added a word of caution. "Leo, before you know what's really going on, please don't say anything to Chloe. You don't have to tell me that." After hanging up, Leo clenched the phone in his hand, his desire to play games completely gone. He meant what he'd told Faye. He had no intention of telling Chloe. If it weren't for her, he wouldn't give a damn about the John Corporation's drama. Even with his good relationship with Ethan, he wouldn't get involved. In fact, a small, selfish part of him hoped Ethan's empire would crumble. Then he could snatch him up for his own company. A man with Ethan's connections and experience would be an absolute steal as a COO. "Leo, I talked to Connor. He's got someone making contact with Jesse Jiang," Spike said, returning to his side after finishing his own call. Leo nodded. "It's getting late. You should get some rest," Spike advised. "Worrying won't change anything right now." Leo shot him a look. "Which one of your eyes sees me worrying?" Spike stared for a second, then burst out laughing. "You're right. Nothing to worry about." Leo stood up and stretched. He was taking the advice. It was late, and he needed sleep. He walked into his room and looked at the neatly made bed with a sigh. They'd slept in the same house. Or would they finally sleep in the same bed? The thought was a bit premature, but a guy could dream. What if it came true? He had just finished washing up and was lying in bed, his eyes not even closed, when his phone rang. "You'd better have some important news," he grumbled into the phone. Faye ignored his irritated tone. "Mr. Jiang got into some trouble overseas while scouting a project," she said. Her voice rushed. "He can't get back. I also just found out he and his wife divorced. The asset settlement isn't even finalized yet. For this to happen now." Faye trailed off. The implication was clear. A messy divorce combined with this incident would be disastrous for Ethan during asset division. Leo had a rough idea of a Jiang Corporation structure. It was a family enterprise. While Ethan held the reins, his brothers also owned significant shares. If his ex-wife got a piece of his stake and teamed up with the brothers, they could absolutely seize control. But Leo couldn't believe Ethan didn't have a contingency plan. From a moment he decided to cut ties with Richard Chien, he must have anticipated the fallout. Why would he go abroad at a time like this? It was like walking straight into a fire. Unless he had another plan in motion. Unable to figure it out, Leo decided to stop thinking about it. His only job was to protect Chloe. As for the rich family power struggles, someone else could deal with that mess. Besides, without Ethan Jiang, was the Jiang Corporation even still the Jiang Corporation? Leo clearly remembered from his past life that not long after Ethan stepped back, the corporate behemoth had come crashing down. "Leo, can you come with me?" The call came early the next morning. It was Chloe, her voice thick with tears. She was sobbing so hard it took Leo a moment to understand what she was saying. "Of course. I'm already downstairs. Just come down." Chloe froze. She scrambled to her balcony and looked down. Leo was standing there, looking up at her. Their eyes met, and she quickly wiped away the fresh tears. "I'll be right there." She didn't even bother to wash her face. She threw on some clothes and rushed downstairs, collapsing into his arms the moment she saw him. "Leo, my dad, She couldn't hold it in any longer. Woof! A fresh wave of sobs racked her body. Leo gently rubbed her back, his voice soft and comforting. "There has to be a misunderstanding. You have to trust your dad." Leo had been woken before dawn by Spike pounding on his door. That's when he'd learned the news. Ethan Jiang had been detained overseas for allegedly assaulting a business partner while intoxicated. But that wasn't all. Another story was circulating, claiming Ethan had a history of domestic abuse and that his long-suffering wife had finally chosen to divorce him. It was a cliché, but an effective one. Public opinion could absolutely crush a person. With this news breaking, Chloe's mother now had an undeniable upper hand in the divorce settlement. The stories were spreading like wildfire, and crucially, no one from Ethan's camp was refuting them. His PR team had gone completely silent. Leo had been worried Chloe would see the news and have a breakdown, which was why he'd come straight to her dorm. Now, there was no hiding it. Chloe cried for a long time before she finally calmed down, though she was still sniffling. "Leo, can we go find him? Please." Her tear-streaked face was so heart-wrenching it would be impossible for anyone to refuse. Leo reached up and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. "Chloe, do you remember what your dad told you before he left?" Chloe looked at him, confused. She thought for a moment. "He told me to stay here and not to go anywhere." Leo nodded. "That's right. Trust me, your dad has a plan. He's going to be fine." Now Chloe was even more confused. Was it possible Ethan had predicted this? It didn't make any sense. "Leo, do you think?" "My dad and my mom." Chloe's brow furrowed, her face a mask of sorrow. On this point, Leo couldn't lie to her. "Sometimes you can't force things," he said gently. "If a relationship is making people unhappy, it's better to end it sooner rather than later, don't you think?" "Excuse me, are you Chloe Jiang?" A group of people who looked like reporters suddenly swarmed them. "We're from Gossip Wire. Is it true that your father, Ethan Jiang, has a history of domestic abuse?" they asked, shoving microphones in her face without any preamble. "Has he ever been violent with you?" Chloe had never experienced anything like this. Already distraught and unfocused, her usual confident poise was gone. She panicked, unable to form a coherent sentence. Fortunately, Leo had anticipated this. He'd already contacted Vice President Zhang. The reporters had barely gotten their questions out before campus security guards stepped in. "This is private university property. All visitors must be registered. Please leave the premises immediately," a guard ordered, herding them toward the gate. Every university had rules about outside visitors needing to register. They just weren't always strictly enforced. But when they were, there was nothing anyone could do. As the guards handled the reporters, Leo wrapped an arm around Chloe's shoulders, pulling her into a protective embrace. He took a baseball cap from his pocket and placed it on her head. As he did, he realized it looked familiar. It was the same one she had worn on the first day of school. He had already arranged for her to take a leave of absence. This was not the time for her to be at school. It was a time she needed comfort. He guided her toward the school gate, where Spike was already waiting with the car running. Spike hopped out and opened the back door for them. Once inside, Chloe leaned her head on Leo's shoulder, silent. The shock of it all had been too much. They drove in silence. Just as they were nearing their destination, Chloe's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID, her brow furrowing. For a moment, she didn't know whether to answer. Leo glanced over. The screen read, "Mom." Leo had never met Chloe's mother and had no idea what she was like. But anyone who would fabricate a domestic abuse scandal was probably not an easy person to deal with. Still, he knew he couldn't badmouth her parents in front of her. The choice had to be Chloe's. His only job was to keep his promise to Ethan and take care of her. After a moment's hesitation, Chloe answered, "Mom." Her voice was quiet and subdued. Spike turned off the car stereo, focusing on driving. Since they were sitting so close, Leo could faintly hear the voice on the other end. "Chloe, where are you? I'm coming to find you. We need to talk." Chloe didn't know where Leo was taking her. She looked at him, and he gave her a slight nod. "I'm not at school," she said. "I'll text you the address in a bit." She took a breath. "By the way, those things they're saying online, do you know about them?" Her mother replied quickly. "That's what I'm coming to talk to you about. And your father and I divorced a while ago. I haven't told you yet." At those words, the tears she'd fought so hard to hold back started to fall again. Chloe had grown up with a silver spoon in her mouth, pampered and protected. She never imagined a day would come when her parents would divorce, or her father would be detained in a foreign country. Fighting back a sob, she managed a week. "Okay, let's talk in person." When she hung up, she threw her arms around Leo. "Leo, what am I going to do?" He gently tapped her forehead. "It's okay. You still have me." Chloe buried her face in his chest, her tears soaking his shirt. "Right? I still have you." She held him even tighter. At that moment, something clicked in Leo's mind. He remembered the day Ethan had tested him, asking about his intentions toward Chloe. Could it be that even back then, he had seen this day coming? Leo felt more and more certain that this was far more complicated than it seemed. Richard Chin was ruthless, but was Ethan Jiang a pushover? Not a chance. "Leo, where are we going?" Chloe asked. She knew he was taking her away from campus to protect her from the media, but he hadn't told her their destination. Now, she was curious, especially since she had to text her mom an address. Leo ran a hand through her hair, a playful glint in his eyes. I'm taking you somewhere to sell you. Chloe pouted and sniffled. I'd let you. She leaned even closer against him. Leo sighed. What a fool. He decided to stop teasing her. You'll tell for a while. Let me get a handle on the situation, and then we'll figure out what's next. Chloe was Ethan Jong's daughter. Almost everyone at school knew it. With her father in trouble, she was naturally in the spotlight. Disappearing from public view for a while was the smart move. Right now, Chloe's heart was in turmoil. She was desperately worried about her father. If it weren't for Leo's reassurances, she would have already flown overseas without a second thought. She had her emotions under control for the most part, but the weight of it all was crushing. Leo, when do you think my dad will be able to come back? She asked softly. Soon, Leo replied. Just be patient and wait. Chloe pressed her lips together and stared out the window, not saying another word. Waiting, she thought. That's the hardest part. They arrived at the Cascade Grand, a 5-star hotel in the city center. Hanky was already waiting at the entrance. When he saw Spike's car pull up, he hurried over to open the door. Leo, everything's arranged. Hank wasn't alone. The hotel's general manager stood by with a group of senior staff. This hotel had been one of the Hamlin Group's assets. Soon, it would belong to Leo. Mr. Ho had given Leo his pick of 3 major assets, and Leo hadn't been shy. But to avoid unnecessary trouble, he'd offered a fair price. Besides his hotel and the media company Cat he was interested in, he'd also acquired a cosmetics brand he was setting aside for Hollywood. It was a good thing Rush Sportswear had been doing well, and that Mr. Ho had helped him secure an advance on the Mill District project. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had the cash for these acquisitions. Mr. White, it's a pleasure to finally meet you, said the hotel's current manager, a man named Lee who had been the vice president. The previous GM was now in jail. Mr. Lee had already been informed that Leo would be his new boss. Only the paperwork was left. That explained his enthusiastic welcome. Leo shook his hand. Mr. Lee, is the room I requested ready? Mr. Lee practically bowed. Yes. Our hotel has 18 floors. The entire 18th floor is a single suite, complete with a rooftop garden. We prepared it for you. You can move in any time. Thank you for your trouble. After a polite exchange, Leo turned to Chloe. Send the address to your mother. You can meet her here. I'll take you up to see the room. Chloe was surprised by how deferential everyone was to Leo. While she didn't pry into his business, she had a general idea of his assets. She'd never heard about him having connections like this. Still, she nodded and texted the hotel's address to her mother. A moment later, she got a reply. My mom says she'll be here in half an hour. She looked at Leo, her expression conflicted. There were so many questions she wanted to ask her mother, but she didn't know where to begin. Seeing her turmoil, Leo gave her a reassuring smile. It's about time I met your mother anyway. How about I join you? That was exactly what Chloe had been hoping for. Hearing Leo offer it himself made her feel even better. Okay. With Leo by her side, she felt a little more grounded. A bellhop guided them to the elevator. Leo politely but firmly declined Mr. Lee's suggestion to hold a meeting for the staff to get to know him. As Leo put it, until the ink was dry, nothing was certain. It was better to wait. For a hotel in 2004, even a 5-star one, it wasn't overly luxurious by later standards, but the location was prime and the ambience was decent. That's why Leo had chosen it. The facilities could be renovated later when he had more money. The entire 18th floor was one massive suite, complete with not just bedrooms, but also an executive office, a conference room, a rooftop garden, and a sky pool. Leo had scouted himself. He imagined it would be perfect in the summer. He could bring Chloe and Sophia here for a barbecue under the stars, and then push them both into the pool. He'd already decided to make it his private residence, no longer available to the public. Chloe was impressed with the suite. The bedroom had a panoramic floor-to-ceiling window overlooking half the city. On any other day, she would have happily dragged Leo to the window to admire the view with her. But today, she wasn't in the mood. Leo knew it, so he stayed quiet and kept his hands to himself. With Ethan's situation so uncertain, it would make him a complete bastard to be thinking about anything else. Chloe, I called Gabby, Leo said. She's going to stay with you for a while. There's another room right next door. Chloe sat on the edge of the bed, lost in thought. She looked up when she heard his voice. What about you? Right now, more than anything, she wanted him to stay with her. Leo lowered his voice. I'll be here too. I just need to spend some time looking into your dad's situation, so I can't be with you every second. Chloe bit her lip, looking straight at him. Leo, thank. Before she could finish the word, he tapped her on the head. Instead of thank you, I'd much rather hear honey. You're amazing. She knew he was trying to cheer her up, but she couldn't bring herself to smile. Still, she whispered. In my heart. You've always been amazing. Half an hour later, Chloe's phone rang. After a brief conversation, she hung up. Leo, my mom's here. Leo, who had been lounging on the sofa playing on his phone, sat up. He checked his reflection in a nearby mirror, and once satisfied, he turned to Chloe. Let's go, he said with a grin. Time to meet the parents. Leo had only ever dealt with Ethan Jiang. He'd never met Chloe's mother. He'd once suggested inviting her whole family to dinner, but Ethan had shot down the idea with a dark look on his face, refusing without a second thought. Leo had never understood why. Chloe's mother hadn't come alone. She was flanked by 3 young people, 2 men and a woman. Leo only recognized one of them, Jesse Jiang, Julian's brother. He looked smug, the pride practically radiating off him. Mom, Jesse, what are you doing here? Chloe asked. Her mother, P10.She, was well-preserved. Though in her 40s, she looked to be in her early 30s, still possessing a mature charm. She smiled upon seeing Chloe. There's been so much going on, she said, taking Chloe's hand. I was worried you might run into trouble, so I came to see you. She gestured to the young man beside her. Chloe, this is Grayson Gu. He's a couple of years older than you, so you can call him Grayson. Grayson, I hope you'll look after Chloe from now on. You're both the same age. I'm sure you'll get along wonderfully. Vivian prattled on with her introduction, completely ignoring Leo. Even Chloe's brow furrowed. Mom, is this really why you came? The impatience in her voice was obvious. Sensing her tone, Vivian's smile faded. Chloe, you're still young and don't always know what's best. Your father never really disciplined you, and I didn't want to overstep. But from now on, you'll listen to me. Jesse chimed in. Exactly. Chloe, we're family. Don't let some outsider fool you. Though he didn't say Leo's name, it was clear who he was talking about. To them, Leo was the outsider. Enough, Chloe snapped, her voice rising in a rare burst of anger. Mom, what exactly did you come here to say? If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Vivian's expression hardened. Chloe, your father and I are divorced. Chloe had suspected as much when she saw the news online, but she'd held onto a sliver of hope. Hearing the words from her mother's lips shattered it completely. The tears she just managed to stop began to flow again. Leo stepped forward and handed her a tissue. Ms. Chin, he said, his voice surprisingly polite. Chloe is a legal adult. There's no custody battle to be had. So what do you want? He was only being civil for Chloe's sake, but some people just couldn't take a hint. Who are you? Who gave you the right to speak? Jesse jeered, his face a mask of arrogance as he jabbed a finger at Leo. The last person who had pointed at Leo like that was still in the hospital. Leo gave him a cold glance. Let him have his moment. It won't last long. Your brother doesn't even dare to talk to me like that, he said flatly. At the mention of Julian, Jesse's disdain grew even stronger. You're comparing me to him? He's a spineless coward. He doesn't have the guts to take what he wants. Leo couldn't be bothered with him. He wrapped an arm around Chloe's shoulders in front of everyone. Ms. Chin, I won't see you out. Vivian's face darkened. This was a blatant dismissal. She looked at Chloe. Chloe, you know the kinds of things Leo has done. Don't be so foolish. Come with me. Grayson is a much better choice than him. Her meaning was clear. She was trying to arrange a match between Chloe and this Grayson. Chloe finally lifted her head, her face set with defiance. She wiped her tears. Mom, I just have one question. Does Dad's trouble overseas have anything to do with you? She stared straight into Vivian's eyes as she spoke. Vivian was stunned and quickly denied it. What he does has nothing to do with me. But Chloe saw her eyes dart away. Chloe gave a bitter laugh. Oh, after a few seconds of silence, she turned away. You should all go. I'm waiting for my dad to come back. Vivian clearly hadn't expected Chloe to be so stubborn. Her tone hardened. Chloe, there's a lot you don't understand. Sticking with Leo will do you no good. You have to come with me today. Chloe stopped. What you all want, she said, her voice trembling slightly, is the stock I own, isn't it? Leo was floored. Chloe owned shares in the Jiang Corporation? She had never said a word, but he didn't interrupt, letting her continue. Dad came to see me at school not long ago, she said, her voice growing stronger. He told me not to give those shares to anyone, not even you. A shadow passed over Vivian's eyes. Ethan, were you really guarding against me all this time? She knew this wasn't the time to dwell on it. Chloe, I'll explain things to you later. For now, just come with me. Chloe shrank back, pressing closer to Leo. The message was clear. Vivian's gaze finally settled on Leo. You're Leo White, I presume? Leo shrugged. I guess so. Vivian managed a tight smile. I've heard about you. I have to say, you're very impressive. But right now, you're not in a position to interfere in this, are you? Rush Sportswear only grew because of the Jiang Corporation's resources. I can use those same resources to make it disappear. Leo ignored her, turning instead to Chloe. So, if I lose my company because of you, how are you going to compensate me? Chloe's eyes were red and swollen, but even in her distress, her beauty was undeniable. A sly smile played on her lips. I'll compensate you with my entire life. Leo nodded gravely. Remember what you just said? I'm taking it seriously. Chloe's voice was soft but firm. Everything I say to you, I mean it. My jerk. Leo was very satisfied with her answer. He gestured to Spike, who had been watching the drama unfold. Are you just going to stand there? You got a business to run or not? Show our guests out. Vivian and her entourage didn't understand what he meant until Spike returned with a group of hotel security guards. Folks, you're not welcome here. Please leave, Spike said, his voice laced with the unmistakable swagger of a street tough. He casually twirled a baton in his hand, as if he was ready to use it at the slightest provocation. You, Jesse stammered, so angry he couldn't get the words out. I'm going to complain to your boss. Spike feigned terror. Oh, I'm so scared. He doubled over, clutching his stomach as if he were laughing. Boss, he called out, still trying to straighten up. They want to file a complaint against me. Leo's face was impassive. Too much talk. You deserve a complaint. You're not getting paid next month. Spike immediately straightened up. No, come on, Leo. I was wrong, okay? Next time I'll just throw them out directly. Leo, what is the meaning of this? Vivian demanded, her voice sharp. She could see a crowd was gathering and knew she wouldn't be able to take Chloe by force today. Leo spread his hands innocently. Annie, let's just wait for Uncle Ethan to get back before we discuss anything else. The hotel is closed for business today. Please leave. Jesse's temper flared. Who the hell do you think you are? You tell us to leave, and we're supposed to just leave? What if we don't? Leo shot a look at Spike, who immediately understood. He yelled into the distance. Mr. Lee. Somehow, in a short time they'd been here, the hotel's general manager had become his Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee didn't disappoint. He emerged from around a corner, leading 4 or 5 massive Caucasian shepherds. Leo estimated each one had to weigh at least 150 pounds. Mr. Lee muttered something to them, and the huge dogs bared their teeth, letting out a series of menacing growls and barks. Even Spike was a little intimidated, taking a step back before turning to Vivian's group. So, you're really not leaving? Don't say I didn't warn you about the consequences. Chloe turned her face away, unwilling to watch. That had come to this. It was her own fault. Jesse was all talk. Seeing that Spike wasn't bluffing, he jabbed a finger at him and spat. You just wait, before turning and practically jogging away, terrified that the dogs might actually be let loose. The so-called Grayson followed, right behind him, not even glancing back at Vivian. Compared to them, Vivian was much calmer. She looked at Leo, then at Chloe hiding behind him. Finally, she sighed. Chloe, listen to your mother. Just take the money and be happy. Give up the shares. They're not a blessing for you. They're a curse. Chloe acted as if she hadn't heard a word, just pressing closer to Leo. The message was clear, stay out of it. In the end, Vivian left too. After a few steps, she called back to Leo. You're truly something else, Leo. This was a Hamlin Group property, wasn't it? Is it yours now? Leo just shrugged. None of your business. Vivian fell silent, then waved a hand without turning around. Things might get difficult from here on out. Take care of Chloe. Leo smiled at her retreating back. You don't have to tell me that. As soon as their car was out of sight, Chloe could hold it in no longer. She collapsed against Leo, wailing. In the past, no matter what was going on between them, Ethan and Vivian had always put on a united front for her. And now, not only was her father's situation unknown, but her own mother was trying to take her inheritance at a time like this. And it seemed her father's troubles weren't entirely unrelated to her. Chloe couldn't bear to think about it anymore. The hotel staff, seeing the scene, had discreetly dispersed. Thankfully, the hotel hadn't been open to the public since the Hamlin Group's collapse, so there were no other guests to disturb them. Leo, is money really that important? Chloe asked weakly, leaning against his chest after her tears were spent. If it weren't for money, would any of this be happening? She expected him to agree with her. Instead, seeing that she had stopped crying, Leo gently pushed her away and grabbed a nearby chair to sit down. His legs were tired from standing so long. Actually, being broke causes way more problems, he said matter-of-factly. So don't overthink it. He patted his lap, gesturing for her to sit. After a moment's hesitation, Chloe wiped her eyes and settled onto his lap. Leo, I miss my dad so much. Me too, Leo said, and this time he meant it. He also wanted to ask Ethan what the hell his game was. Don't worry, Faye is already on her way there. We should have news soon. The moment he'd found out, Leo had contacted Faye and asked her to go investigate. Even though she'd just been demoted, she still had some clout at the Jian Corporation and was familiar with their overseas projects. She was the best person for the job. Most importantly, based on what Ethan had let slip before, he trusted her completely. Faye had agreed without hesitation, though she did ask Leo for some money before she left. As she put it, she was probably going to lose her current job by taking this trip, and it wasn't right to use her own money for company business. Leo couldn't quite follow her logic, but he gave it to her anyway. Hearing that Faye was on the case, Chloe relaxed a little. All she could do now was pray that everything would be okay. All right, Gabby's on her way to take you back to your room, so you can rest, Leo said gently. I'll come find you later. Chloe hadn't slept well last night, and all the crying had left her exhausted. Though she didn't want him to go, she knew he had a lot to do. She finally let go of his shirt. Okay. After watching them get into the elevator, Leo walked out of the hotel. Spike was already waiting. Leo, Connor has everything set up, Spike reported. We're starting slow, but with a personality like Jesse Jong's, it'd be weird if he didn't take the bait. Leo just nodded to show he'd heard. He then waved at a BMW parked a short distance away. Cat he drove up. Spike, seeing his cue, made a discreet exit. Well, Mr. White, your entourage is getting more and more impressive, Cat teased as she pulled to a stop. Those people just now were quite the characters. Sophia got out of the car and walked over to Leo, tossing a clean jacket at him. Change your clothes, she said simply. His jacket was stained with Chloe's tears. Leo was about to say it was fine, but he saw the wary look in Sophia's eyes and decided to change. It was winter, so he was wearing enough layers to change his outer jacket on the street. After he'd swapped them, he was about to ask a hotel employee to take the old one to be dry cleaned, but Sophia snatched it from him. Cat blinked. Hello? Did you two not hear me? What did you say? Sophia asked, stuffing the jacket into a bag. Leo also looked at her. What did you say? Cat was speechless. She patted her forehead and took a deep breath to keep from getting angry. Leo, besides Vivian Chien and that Jesse kid, do you know who the other two were? Leo looked even more confused. Should I? Sophia gently tugged on Cat's sleeve. Come on, Cat. If you know, just tell us. Cat shot Leo a sideways glance. That guy's name is Grayson Gu. His family is in the import-export business. They're very rich. Leo didn't understand what very rich meant in this context. He just blinked at Cat. Well, Cat said, let's just say they have more assets than the Jiang Corporation. Holy shit, Leo exclaimed, genuinely startled. Do they have a daughter? Sophia covered her mouth, trying to stifle a giggle. Leo's thinking was always so audacious. Cat rolled her eyes, but answered anyway. Yes,